Hello, everybody. It's Neil, and I'm back with more of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. It's the 23rd of October, 8:52 a.m. at the Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. I can't believe it's been 6 months since I was last allowed to work in court. And now here I am, back at the Old Bailey. Mr. Naruhodo. Good morning, Professor Harebrain. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. The atmospheric pressure in here is off the charts. I've never felt anything like it. It's crushing me. I feel it every time I'm here. That gravity. Well, this is Britain's highest court. But are you telling me that it's fitted with some kind of device that can actually control air pressure? I think it's probably all in the mind. Yes, well, you won't let me down, will you, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm counting on you in today's trial to save my life, to save the secret of my super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine from being made public. Yes, I understand. I know what I have to do. I have to establish that the explosion 2 days ago was nothing more than an unfortunate accident. Well, I'm sure there's nothing to worry about, really. Justice will prevail. My commiserations, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, I know who this is. You appear to have been lumbered with a most tiresome case here. Yep. Mr. Sholmes, I didn't expect to see you here. That was very mean, Runo, leaving me all alone at home with Hurley. It took me at least an hour to wake him. Are you... Herlock Sholmes? Indeed, sir, I am he, Herlock Sholmes. Oh, I've heard all about your exploits, even whilst living in Germany. Ah yes, Ranst magazine is on sale in Germany too. This month's installment was sublime. Your deduction in The Adventure of the Silver Blaze was wonderful. Ah yes, a memorable case indeed. It concerned a snake, I seem to recall. No, I think it concerned a horse. No, that was the speckled band. Well, the Ryunosuke is talking. Well, thank you for coming. I do appreciate your support. I'm sorry to disappoint you, my dear fellow, but I'm afraid I can't stay. Oh? I have urgent business at Madame Tispel's. You mean your waxwork job? No, the waxwork abduction, of course. Madame has engaged my services. Ah, so you're trying to get to the bottom of that ransom note, are you? The week's wages depend on it, as does the safe return of the waxwork, naturally. As such, I intend to give it my undivided attention. Oh, well, never mind then. I understand. Of course, with my skills of observation and reasoning, resolving the matter will be as easy as proverbial pie. I shall return forthwith. Or until I solve the case, I shall have no money to afford a pie of any description. Oh, then you must absolutely give it your full attention, Hurley. Quite, Iris, quite. But life is riddled with irony, you know. Wherever I give something my full attention, I have a quite insatiable desire for pie. One of the universe's intraceable mysteries, you might say. Oh yes, quite, definitely, absolutely. I totally understand. Is someone a little starstruck? I wish you the very best of luck, Professor Harebrain. Why thank you. Before I depart, Mr. Naruhodo, a word in your ear, if you please. What's this about? As you have remarkably little grounding in science, I feel I ought to inform you. As compelling as this super high voltage instantaneous kinesis hypothesis may be, a practical implementation, such as was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibition, is quite impossible. But the professor said the demonstration was a success. Yes, it would appear that he fervently believes it was. I've read the Professor Bunnybrain's paper about it too, Bruno, and I have to say, I'm sure it can't be done. It could barely be done theoretically, let alone practically. So he's completely barking up the wrong tree? But how could an experiment that had no possibility of succeeding in fact succeed? That's contradictory. And it's that contradiction that will be at the heart of the trial, I've no doubt. What's that supposed to mean? Now, I must hurry along. I wish you the best of luck, my dear fellow. See you later, Hurley. No. Well, it looks like you're on your own today, Runo. But chin up, you can do it. Oh, what about you, Iris? No, I'm afraid I can't help. I have something I need to do. I see. It's gonna be a big surprise for you when you find out what it is. Huh. That sounds ominous. Counsel for the defense and the defendant. Court is about to be in session. Make your way into the courtroom at once. We're on our way. An experiment that the laws of science can't possibly succeed. Or that the laws of science say can't possibly succeed. And a scientist who's convinced that it did. That's the riddle you have to unlock here, Ryunosuke. That's the key to this case. The 23rd of October, 9:10 a.m., the Old Bailey courtroom. Clack. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are sitting today for the public trial of Professor Albert Harebrain. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready, my lord. I'm 6 months out of practice, and what's more, I'm without Susato today. Ugh. Is it just my imagination, or does the air in here feel even more oppressive than usual? So, I must say I recollect the victim of this case all too well, Mr. Odie Osman. Mr. Osman was well known as a financier, though that was merely a front for his diverse criminal activities. It was only a month ago that the man appeared in court, prosecuted by you, Lord Van Zieks, but the jury unanimously found him not guilty. Because every member of the jury had been bribed by the sound of it, or so they say. These powerful London criminals are prepared to go to extreme lengths to keep their freedom. But 2 days ago, on the 21st of October, Mr. Osman met his end. The work of the Reaper, was it? If that is how your lordship would describe divine retribution. But the fact remains that Mr. Osman's death was a direct result of the actions of the accused, Professor Harebrain. Very well, then. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been selected at random to represent the will of the people. Are the 6 of you ready to fulfill your societal duty? Oh my god, your societal duty? Let's see, I'll do this guy as like Michael McConaughey. I'm most gratified to have been selected to carry out this important civic duty, my lord. Oh, to have a man's fate in the palm of one's hand. Oh gosh, oh golly, it sends shivers down my spine. Oh, I like this guy already. Science experiments, magic, conjuring tricks, courtroom trials, all or nothing more than performances. Any spurious scholar that defiles the reputation of science deserves to hang. A kid? We have a kid? We have to listen to what's said on both sides of the fence and, then settle on one. That's it, isn't it? Football practice. Wasn't like this in my day. Wasn't like this at all. That's the police killer Ottermole look-alike. Again. And he's as exhausted as ever, it seems. Clack. Now, as I'm sure you're all aware, the incident we are about to hear to judge today tragically took place at the Great Exhibition shortly after its opening. Though the death toll could have been far worse. With the exception of the victim, no one was killed. Nevertheless, the dream of the science being exhibited rapidly turned into a nightmare for the spectators. A tragic turn of events, and as such, the eyes of all of London, no, of all the world will be on this trial. It is our duty to reach a swift and just conclusion, I feel. That should be your feeling on all trials, Judge. Clack. So, your opening statement, please, Lord Van Zeeks. At the heart of this incident is technology never before demonstrated anywhere in the world. One of science's latest developments, I take it. The government is keen to capitalize on the Great Exhibition to improve Britain's technological advantage. The technology being demonstrated by the accused was described as super high voltage, instantaneous kinesis. Good Lord! It's designed to disassemble human subjects using extremely high voltage electricity and beam them instantly to another location where they are subsequently reassembled. Is such a thing even within the realm of possibility? Well, I don't believe it, that's for sure. Disassembling people with electricity! Oh my goodness, how shocking! The whole idea is absurd. The hypothesis would never stand up to scrutiny. I'm trying to do like a Hal Smith for that guy, but it's a very bad Hal Smith. Sir, I believe you are a fellow of the Royal Society, are you not? An expert in your field? I am, and my word on the matter can be considered final. Instantaneous kinesis is poppycock. So this expert and Mr. Sholmes are in agreement. It's impossible. What is the prosecution's view on the matter? The prosecution would assert that the accused instantaneous kinesis demonstration was a success. Oh no. What rot! Order! Order! The professor's hypothesis is currently under investigation by the British government. If it is deemed to have merit, a substantial research grant would be made available. The accused made use of the invention built on his new hypothesis to take Mr. Osmond's life, in order to be the sole benefactor of the grant. But, this disastrous demonstration was no accident. It was carefully designed from the outset to end the life of the victim. Clack. Thank you, Lord Van Zeeks. The prosecution's stance is clear. But you will now bring forth witnesses to substantiate your claims. Gladly, my lord. Bailiff, show the first witnesses to the stand. Okay. Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division. I was on duty at the demonstration on the day in question and in charge of the following investigation. Albert Harebrain, scientist. You were born in England but have been carrying out research in Germany in recent years, correct? Yes, that's right. After graduating from university here in Britain, I went to work in Germany and made an amazing discovery. Which is what brought me back. I had to demonstrate my incredible hypothesis at the Great Exhibition. What you demonstrated was incredible, all right. An incredible explosion. But the science was a success. The instantaneous kinesis worked. Everyone saw it. They must have done. Yes, there was that terrible accident, but the demonstration of my hypothesis was a success. Well, that much is undeniable, as shown in this photograph taken by the forensic investigation team. This was taken inside the Crystal Tower, I take it. The centerpiece of the exhibition, no less. That's right, my lord. Seems the victim rammed straight into it. I see. Very well. Submit the photograph as evidence. The photograph of the victim has been entered into the court record. As the court heard, the victim of the incident was Mr. Odie Osmond. There have been a number of allegations made against the man, but putting them aside for the time being, he was the man who financed the research for the experiment and the demonstration itself. I see. So, to summarize the situation, the defendant is accused of taking the life of the man who funded his work. Would that be correct? Exactly. But couldn't it be that the explosion was caused by some malfunction in the apparatus used for the demonstration? That's right. That must be it. My splendid machine. My poor splendid machine. You saw it yesterday, didn't you? We can't even examine the wreckage thanks to the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. What? The wreckage? The wreckage? With that being the case, how can the facts be established? How can it possibly be determined whether this was an accident or a deliberate and malicious act? Extremely simply, my lord. I beg your pardon? Isn't that right, witness? What? Sorry? Me? No, your neighbor. Yes, sir. It was murder, plain and simple. Anyone could state that with complete certainty. What? How can he possibly think that? Clack. Thank you, Inspector. I think we had better proceed to formal testimony. You will explain to the court on what grounds you claim this experiment to be a front for murder. Witness testimony. A front for murder. The corpse that went crashing through the Crystal Tower had a broken neck. I made a minor miscalculation in the angle of the beam projection, that's all. That was my mistake. But the post-mortem examination revealed another injury, a fatal wound. There was a lesion in his chest where he'd clearly been stabbed by something sharp right in the heart. Shot through the heart and the professor's to blame. So the victim was killed before he went anywhere, and this fellow's the only one who could have done it. Oh, so now the accident has nothing to do with the murder. Oh, great. An extraordinary business. In addition to suffering a broken neck, the victim was stabbed in the heart? Information I would really like to have heard from someone other than the judge. The coroner says the death would have been all but instant from a wound like that. You could say, in fact, that the victim was killed twice by the accused. No. That couldn't be further from the truth. I have here the experiment plan document that was submitted to the security team. The victim stood himself inside something called the birdcage, ready to be beamed instantly. To the second level of the crystal tower, about 25 yards away. The experiment did not go according to plan, however. As the machine was put into operation, there was a large explosion. The blast caused the beam transmitter to point higher than intended. Accordingly, the kinesis resulted in the birdcage materializing in mid-air, from where it subsequently fell, crashing through the glass of the crystal tower's large round window. Was there a balloon there that's not in my diagram? My word! One assumes the victim's neck was broken upon impact with the tower then. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean for this to happen. The machine was just too powerful. But honestly, really, I swear, it was just an accident, a terrible accident. Unfortunately, that excuse can't save you. No, not considering the sharp murder weapon that pierced the victim's heart. Murder? Murder weapon? What are you saying? This is the autopsy report submitted by the coroner. The prosecution would like it entered into the court record. Your request is granted, counsel. The autopsy report has been entered into the court record. I was there in person, you know. I saw the whole ludicrous performance. And the only other person on the stage with Mr. Osmond was that disgraceful excuse for a scientist. Then really, by all accounts, it must have been him. Hard to think otherwise, really. Clack. Very well. Counsel for the defense, proceed with the cross-examination, please. Oh, yes, my lord. I need to focus here. It's been a while. Okie doke. Front for murder. Corpse that went crashing through the crystal tower had a broken neck. Hold it. Are you suggesting that it's because he fell from a considerable height? Exactly. Which highlights something else about this whole rum business. What's that? The fact that the instantaneous kinesis itself was a success. Ah. After the explosion, the cage with the fella inside suddenly appeared out of nowhere in mid-air. So although the experiment ended in disaster, the so-called instantaneous kinesis did actually occur. Remind us, Professor, what was the cause of the fatal disaster? I made a minor miscalculation. Oh, I made a minor miscalculation with the angle of the beam projection. That's all. That was my mistake. Okay, hold on there, buddy. So the angle of the projection is critical, is it? And you calculated it yourself, personally? Absolutely. The calculation is far too complicated for anyone but me to carry out. Only you got it wrong, didn't you? Yes, that's right. That's the point. The calculation is so complicated, even I can make a mistake. Do people fall for that brazen confidence? I should try it. I took into account the subject's height and weight, the wind direction, the ambient temperature. I considered every possible variable, so I just don't understand how this could have happened. Obviously, then, you had to include the weight of the clothes Mr. Osmond was wearing at the time, I suppose. Ah. Crackling comets! The answer should have been 3. So much for safety first. The 3 must be for safety third. But the post-mortem examination revealed another injury, a fatal wound. Okay. Fill me in on this. Another fatal injury, you say? That doesn't make any sense. I didn't think I'd have to spell this out, but here we go. Just because there were 2 fatal wounds doesn't mean I'm saying the victim had 2 lives to lose, does it? 2, right. Obviously, at first, we thought the bloke had died due to his spine snapping in half as well. But you're saying that's not the case? You'll get your answer once I'm finished my fish and chips, if you don't keep butting in every few seconds. But we all know that's a bottomless bag. The victim plummeted 30 feet into a glass tower. It would have been reasonable to assume that as the cause of death. Right. That's what we all thought. But it was a red herring, wasn't it? There was a lesion in his chest where he'd clearly been stabbed by something sharp right in the heart. The defense knew nothing of this crucial information. The prosecution received this report from the forensic investigation team only this morning. This was the first we knew of it as well. I only apologize for the impossibility of informing the defense. Sarcastic and insincere. Thanks. So, what was the nature of this sharp object? Among the accused tools that were in use at the demonstration, one is of particular interest. This. Ah, yes, that would appear to be some kind of screwdriver, wouldn't it? Ah, there he is! My trusty little companion, Andrew. Andrew? Of course. Ah, do you know each other already? He's one of my dear friends, like all my tools. Your friends are tools? I've named them all, you know. We're all one big happy family. Andrew is my flathead screwdriver, of course. His brother, Michael, is crosshead. I would have thought the crosshead one would have been named Philip. Well, it would appear that your beloved Andrew has a red stain on his shank. Ah, that isn't... Of course it is, dummy. It's blood, beyond all reasonable doubt. No. And that's not all. The long, sharp shape of this Andrew fellow is completely consistent with the victim's wound. What? Clack, clack, clack. Order! The court will enter this friend of the defendant as evidence. The screwdriver has been entered into the court record. So one of Professor Harebrain's tools is the murder weapon. Great. So the victim was killed before he went anywhere, and this fellow was the only one who could have done it.
Hold it!
Hold it! What grounds do you have for saying that? Huh. really need to ask. There were only 2 people on the public experimentation stage, in front of the whole crowd. The victim, Mr. Odie Osmond, and the accused, Professor Harebrain. And we know for certain that before the experiment, the victim was alive. That's right, I saw him with my own eyes. Furthermore, following the explosion and kinesis, nobody went anywhere near the body. In other words, only someone else on stage with the victim could possibly have done it. Excuse me. Professor Harebrain, do you have some information that may be relevant here? Professor? Sorry! I was just calculating the optimum coefficient of electrolysis to separate molecules in the human body. And the witness stand is the best place for that? It seemed as though you might have something to say about Inspector Gregson's last remark. Yes, that's right, of course. He just said that nobody else could have done it, didn't he? Yeah, that's right. Who else could have stabbed the victim, eh? I don't know, but there's no way I could possibly have stabbed Mr. Osmond, as you say. Eh? Explain, please, Professor. Of course, this cold-hearted policeman may not be aware, I suppose. But humans are warm-blooded mammals, with blood running continuously throughout their veins. I had heard. Then surely you see, if I plunged something the size of Andrew into the man's chest, the whole stage would have been a bloodbath. No, a blood swimming pool. Ah. But thousands of Londoners were watching me at the time. And yet, not one of them claims to have seen a swimming pool of blood. Well, no, I suppose not. You see? Not one. True, I didn't see anything like that. Well done, Professor. That was a great counter-argument. I should have been the one to do that. Clack. Order! Order! Here we go. Pray, forgive the discourtesy of if I savor a drop from my hallowed chalice to accompany my old friends educing. My old friends educing. That's a word I don't know. Here's to you, Albert. Oh, you're too kind, Barack. But I'm really not a patch on you. No, you're not. No. You've neglected to mention one crucial possibility. I have? A particular situation in which very little bleeding would result from a stab wound. Ah, of course. Inspector, enlighten the court, please. Yes, sir. Where are they going with this? Clack. Very well, you will amend your formal testimony now, Inspector Gregson. The weapon the victim was stabbed with must have been left in his body whilst he was beamed through the air. Oh, shoot, I forgot to... So that's all the testimony I have to work with. I had no idea the victim had been stabbed. That changes everything. Did Van Zieks keep that to himself until now, on purpose to gain the advantage? Oh well, I suppose all I can do is press these witnesses for as much new information as possible. Okay, I need to get back to that last... Before I do that, I need to look at some of the new evidence. Autopsy report, Mr. Odie Osmond, 47, British, 2:20 p.m. Hemorrhage of a wound to the chest that pierced the heart, inflicted by a sharp implement. Additional observations: a broken vertebrae, most likely resulting from impact after a sudden fall from a considerable height. That doesn't look like a broken neck to me. Okay, there's the chest. The chest wound is not a lot of bleeding. Okay. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Well, first, I gotta check this thing out. I've seen this unusually shaped handle before. It's the same screwdriver that was lodged into the grill on the floor of the kinesis machine, which could be important information, so I should definitely make a note of it. Details of the screwdriver have been updated in the court record. Okay, and was it bloody on the day that we looked at it? I don't remember. This is blood, Mr. Osmond's, no doubt. This is the problem with looking at murder weapons. Okay, I guess that's everything. Oh, wait a minute. The metal screwdriver that was found poking through the grill in the base of what remains of the kinesis machine has a very distinctive handle. Yes. Yes, I do believe that... Objection. You say that while the weapon remains in the body, there is very little bleeding. Is that unequivocal? Look, there was no blood on the experimentation stage, even though that's where the fellow was stabbed. The only explanation for that is if the screwdriver was still in the body, stopping any heavy bleeding. It's common medical knowledge, my learned friend, even on your side of the world. Yes, but about this screwdriver. The thing is, we actually saw it at the scene ourselves on the experimentation stage. What? It was on the floor by the wreckage of the machine, poking through the metal grill. I went to pick it up, but the detective here stopped me. Isn't that right, Inspector Gregson? Now you come to mention it, yes. Inspector, are we to understand that you permitted the defense counsel to investigate? That you contravened the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act? No, not at all. I wouldn't do that. I just let him look, nothing more. It was very clear he wasn't to touch a thing. Yes, that's true. This screwdriver was in plain sight on the stage. But it shouldn't have been, should it? What are you getting at? You know. If this tool had still been in the victim's body when the victim was beamed away by the machine, then it shouldn't have still been on the stage. Oh. That's right. It should have been beamed across to the Crystal Tower along with Mr. Osmond, and been found still lodged in the victim's chest. This is ridiculous that we're still entertaining the idea that there's a teleportation device in 1899. Order! How do you explain this, Inspector? I don't. It looks as though everything that the victim had on his person moved with him when he was beamed. If the screwdriver was still in his chest when the instantaneous kinesis occurred, obviously that should have been beamed to the destination as well. Phew. This is a strange situation. Even though people are saying that this instantaneous kinesis is a scientific impossibility, we're still basing arguments on the assumption that it did actually take place. I just said that. Alright, Time to tighten the screws here. My lord, if the prosecution is unable to explain this inconsistency in its argument, we can only conclude that the testimony given in support cannot be relied upon. Lord Van Zieks is stumped. No. No. No! You idiot, what are you doing? Do you have something to say, witness? Yes, I knew it. It bears out. The equations hold. Mr. Naruhodo, don't worry. About what? Without delving into the details, there's no inconsistency. Shut up! Shut up! Even if Andrew had been lodged in Mr. Osmond's chest, my trusty tool wouldn't have moved. Andrew remaining on the stage is consistent with my calculations. What? What? It would seem your illusions have been shattered. Clearly, we should hear the accused's explanation. Or should I say, this brilliant scientist's explanation? I'm dead, Judge. Just cast your verdict. Just when I'd found an inconsistency in the prosecution's argument, scientists. Very well, the defendant will testify again. Provide us with the scientific explanation as to why the inconsistency asserted by the defense fails to hold. In the name of Apollo, I will, my lord. The inconsistency explained. To be clear, I'm still at the stage of gathering data in my research. My hypothesis states that kinesis cannot transport metal, though. Hence, the metal weapon would have stayed put. In other words, the point just raised by Mr. Naruhodo isn't an inconsistency at all. Mr. Osmond was the patron of my research. Without him, my work wouldn't have been possible. Now I have a duty to protect the incredible machine that we built together. You dummy. We basically had won. Van Zieks had nothing. Everyone's just nonplussed. So, the thrust of your testimony, Professor, is that based upon his hypothesis, metal objects cannot be moved by this method of instantaneous kinesis. In other words, since the screwdriver is made of metal, even if it remained lodged in the victim's chest, its subsequent discovery on stage, despite the victim being found elsewhere, is not an inconsistency. And therefore, Professor Albert Harebrain could still have been the killer. What is this? Is this the Terminator? Where objects can't move through time, and through time and space? My great hypothesis holds, you see. We had to make the cage used to contain the subject from wood for that very reason. I was not addressing you, witness. Professor Harebrain. Shut up. Whose side are you on here? I don't take sides, Mr. Naruhodo. No. My only interest lies in upholding my hypothesis. I'm a scientist, after all. Is he working for us or against us? It's very hard to tell. Let's see how you cross-examination this testimony, my Nipponese friend. Yes, fire away, Mr. Naruhodo. The inconsistency explained. To be clear, I still at a stage of gathering data in my research. Hold it. And yet, your retort to my argument wasn't lacking in confidence in any way. No scientist can find the truth without first finding self-belief. Those were the words of a certain scientist I hold in the highest esteem. But you realize that disproving my argument puts you in a very precarious position, don't you? No scientist should strive to protect himself more than he strives to protect the truth. More words of the same great scientist, you know. Words that are causing me a lot of trouble. Who is this scientist? I'm afraid I couldn't tell you, Mr. Naruhodo. But as soon as I remember the magnificent genius's name, you'll be the first to know. It might be worth keeping the names of your idols to mind. You're wasting your breath, my learned friend. This scatterbrain even forgets my name at times. So Lord Van Zieks really did have a friend once, but I didn't notice hell freezing over. My hypothesis states kinesis cannot transport metal, though, hence the metal weapon would have stayed. Okay. Your hypothesis states it, so this isn't proven then? Oh, he had hypothesis in quotation marks. That's like the people who are like, well, it's just a theory, it's not fact. No, that's not how science works. No, of course not. It's merely a hypothesis, but a good one based on thousands of calculations. It is widely known that metals cannot be decomposed by electrolysis. Yes, of course. So I am right. My hypothesis is clearly correct. What is it about incriminating himself that makes this man so happy? It's the whole reason that the birdcage is made of wood, you see. Sorry, the birdcage? Yes, that's what I call the C. obtusa cage, in which Mr. Osmond was placed for the kinesis. Ah, the jail cell in which the victim was detained. The jail cell in which the victim was detained. It does indeed seem to be made of timber of some sort. I'll thank you not to refer to it as an instrument of incarceration, your lordship. In short, any weapon lodged in the victim when he was beamed away by instantaneous kinesis would have been left behind on the stage if it was made of metal, correct? Yes, that's it. Yes. It all fits perfectly with my mathematical model. But the ultimate conclusion, then, is that the defendant alone had the opportunity to inflict this fatal injury on the victim, is it not? Indeed, sir. Someone beam me out of this nightmare. In other words, the point just raised by Mr. Naruhodo isn't an inconsistency at all. Shut up. You seem to be pleased by that. Yes, another example of my hypothesis holding true. But I sense some sarcasm, Mr. Naruhodo. Are you not pleased? No. Oh, I just said no instinctively. He actually said that. I knew it. At the end of the day, I'm the one responsible for Mr. Osmond losing his life. The advancement of science is no excuse. I know that. No, you're quite right. Tell the court, did you have a close relationship with Mr. Osmond? Oh, well, not really. I mean, I'd only met him 2 or 3 times. And we only ever discussed my hypothesis and the project and the research grant, of course. Mr. Osmond was the patron of my research. Without him, my work wouldn't have been possible. Hold it. How did you come to know Mr. Osmond in the first place? A baseball card? A year ago now, a small provincial science journal published a little paper about my work. That's a scientific journal? Good gracious, I should need new spectacles. I might have had an extraordinary hypothesis and great promise, but at the time I had no money. I had to eat tiny little meals at a tiny cafe and drink watered-down water out of a tiny little glass. But Mr. Osmond read the paper and came to visit me at my tiny little laboratory. And offered you money to help fund your work. Exactly, that's exactly what happened. I handled the theoretical side of things, and Mr. Osmond provided me with an engineer for the practical. And the three of us produced that fantastic machine together. The machine that you brought to the great exhibition to demonstrate. We had to apply to the government for some sort of inspection to be allowed to exhibit, I think. I didn't understand all that side of things. Mr. Osmond took care of all of that. He was a wonderful man. Really, I owe him everything. Now I have a duty to protect that incredible machine that we built together.
Hold it!
Hold it. When you say that you built the machine together, does that mean that you were involved in its construction? Yes. Well, not exactly. I'm not good with the practical side of machines myself, so the practical construction was done by an engineer. Little remains of your creation now, though, following the explosion. Repair will no doubt be impossible. Yes, I realize that, but still. If someone were to gather all the broken parts, they could discover the secret of my hypothesis. But Mr. Osmond and I toiled over that machine for so long, we put our hearts and souls into it. I have to protect our work. So what's left of the machine must be kept safe. That's only fair, because what happened was an accident. That's the extent of the testimony, then. Thank goodness for that. I don't want him doing any more damage. He's already basically proven that he could have been the culprit. But it seems as though all he really cares about is defending his hypothesis. Still, I wonder, what if his hypothesis is just fundamentally flawed? To be clear, I'm still at the stage of gathering data. My hypothesis states kinesis cannot transport metal, though. Hence, in other words, the point of raised. Wait a minute. Hold on. Hold on. Wait a minute. Back up. Something ain't right. That sure looks like metal to me. It's gotta be. Objection! You fool! Professor Harebrain, you said that according to your hypothesis, nothing made of metal can be beamed by instantaneous kinesis using the machine you made. Is that right? Yes, that's right. Spot on. Exactly correct. In that case, I'd ask you to have a look at this photograph that was taken at the scene. In particular, I'd like you to pay attention to the victim's face. You can clearly see that Mr. Osmond is wearing a pair of spectacles with a metal rim. What? Metal? No! Metal can't... That's not... Metal? No! We've already established that the proposed murder weapon, the screwdriver, was found on the machine. On the stage, rather. However, if your hypothesis correctly predicted that outcome, it should also have predicted that the metal-rimmed spectacles would have been found in the same place. Ah! My hypothesis! My hypothesis! My voice can't do that at the moment. Professor Harebrain, this isn't easy for me to say, but your hypothesis is clearly flawed. Order, order, order! Counsel, what is the implication of this? If, on the day in question, the alleged instantaneous kinesis never actually took place, Ah, then it's entirely possible that the victim was killed somewhere other than on the stage. And in that case, someone other than the defendant could have been the culprit. But my hypothesis is sound. I proved it that day. The experiment was a success. The experiment was proof of all my work. Objection. If I could say something here, in my capacity as a fellow of the Royal Society. Yes, juror number 4, go ahead. As a man of science, there's one thing I simply cannot abide. And that's a fraud who pretends to be a fellow man of science. What? Wait, great Scott! Are you suggesting my science is suspect? It's just been disproven, hasn't it? In front of all of us. In other words, the whole demonstration was a complete nonsense from start to finish. Believe me, my fellow jurors, when I tell you that this man is a heel, a bounder, and a fraud. I say the wreckage of that machine should be stripped down and thoroughly examined. No, never! That machine is the essence of my entire hypothesis. It's protected by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. What the devil is that blasted act all about, eh? Who made up such a daft rule? I don't like the way this seems to be going. What's the best way for me to help the professor? Always raise an objection.
Objection!
Objection! Professor Harebrain has yet to perfect his invention. That would seem to be the case, yes. But even so, what? Going to such trouble and expense to create a fake machine to display in public, he would have absolutely no reason to do such a thing.
Objection!
Objection! He had an obvious reason to do exactly that. The grant money. For the research grant money. Yeah. Ugh. If the government was foolish enough to have deemed that man's ridiculous notion plausible, he and his conspirators would have received a handsome sum indeed. Conspirators? What would the value of such a... What would be the value of such a grant? 10 pounds? You're an order of magnitude all out, madam. 500 pounds a year. Oh, you could live handsome on that much money for years. The society's noticed an increase in bogus public demonstrations in the field of science recently. Oh, so you're saying that that government handouts can result in fraudsters coming forward? Oh, what a novel idea! Unintended consequences, and plenty of scientists arguing with each other to get the largest slice of the funding cake. People's greed is plenty motive enough for murder, I assure you. No! I haven't deceived anyone, least of all the government. My hypothesis is sound. The science is sound. Please, you must believe me.
Objection!
Objection! No matter how unbelievable this hypothesis may seem to you, ladies and gentlemen, the fact remains that the victim was transported instantly to the Crystal Tower. Which means that the experiment was a success. Barak. And therefore, the only person who could possibly have committed this murder is the accused. Oh, Barak. Where is this heading? I have no idea. My lord, if I may. Yes, Lord Van Zeeks. The prosecution would like to summon new witnesses to the stand. New witnesses? What would be the nature of their involvement? They were spectators of the demonstration at the exhibition who were occupying special seats. Eyewitnesses? Very well, the court grants the prosecution's request. I should very well like to hear from eyewitnesses to the incident. The prosecution's stance is clear. The experiment was no pastiche. The accused killed the financier victim there on the public stage before the very eyes of the spectators. Now, my learned friend. Oh, yeah? It's time for you to make your own stance clear. There's clearly a flaw in the professor's hypothesis. I can definitely see that. But where does that leave me? Clack. We shall take a short recess now, during which time the prosecution will prepare its new witnesses to take the stand. As you wish, my lord. Good. In that case, court is adjourned for 20 minutes. Clack. To be continued. That was a pretty short chapter. We're just going to keep going. Save your current progress. Yes. The 23rd of October, 10:44 a.m., the Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. Mr. Naruhodo! What on earth were you playing at just now? Or rather, what on earth were you playing at all along? My hypothesis, my amazing hypothesis! You've been picking holes in it from the start! Sorry about that. But you promised me. You said you'd prove that dreaded explosion was an accident, not murder. You said you'd keep my precious invention from falling into anyone else's hands. And all you've done so far is to undermine me. Look, this is a murder trial, and I'm just trying to keep you from swinging from the gallows. Yes, I did make you a promise, you're right. I said that I'd believe in you and fight for your freedom to the very end. But I also told you I was no scientist. I don't understand your hypothesis. The fact is, there's an undeniable flaw in your logic, isn't there? But if I just run through some equations, yes, you'll see. It's because my work is incomplete. Perhaps it is. Nevertheless, a man died as a consequence, didn't he? Oh no! You're right. You're so right. It's all my fault. I have no right to blame you for my failures. I'm a disaster not just as a scientist, but as a human being. Well, that might be a little over the top. And while we're on the subject, what about Barack? He's being awful. Ryunosuke. Claiming his old university friend to be a murderer, you mean? He's a disaster, not just as a prosecutor, but as a human being. Oh, but no, wait, he's the Reaper of the Bailey, isn't he? Perhaps he's not classified as Homo sapien anymore. Glad that's cleared up, I guess. Can I double check something with you? Yes, what? The machine and demonstration you prepared, they were based entirely on your hypothesis, I presume. There was no trickery involved? I drew the plans for the machine with my very own hands. Every line was painstakingly drawn with the firm belief that science is the only future. So yes, it's true that my hypothesis hasn't reached maturity yet, but please, Mr. Naruhodo, you must believe in it. All right, Professor, I understand. Counsel, defendant. The prosecution's witnesses are ready to take the stand. Court is about to be in session again. Make your way into the courtroom, please. It all hinges on that demonstration. If the professor's hypothesis is sound as he claims, it leaves him as the only person who could possibly have killed the victim. But on the other hand, Mr. Sholmes was adamant. A practical implementation, such as was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibition, is quite impossible. So really, what should I be trying to prove here? Indeed. 23rd of October, 11 a.m. sharp. The Old Bailey, courtroom. Clack. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby reconvene the proceedings of this court. Counsels for the defense and prosecution, are you ready for the new witnesses to testify? The prosecution is ready, my lord. As is the defense, my lord. So, Lord Van Zeeks, I believe these next witnesses saw the demonstration on the day in question with their own eyes. Indeed, they did. And as luck would have it, one of them is a police detective. So the testimony we are about to hear can be considered highly reliable. Perfect. A detective of all people. The prosecution's stance remains unchanged. Though it ended in tragedy, the demonstration on the day in question was scientifically sound. And consequently, the sole person with the opportunity to have committed this act of murder is the only other individual to have been present on the stage at the time, the accused. Thank you, counsel. The prosecution's position is clear. So, bring forth your witnesses now. Bailiff, show the witnesses in. The witnesses whose proximity to the incident on the day in question will clarify the truth unequivocally. Okay. I should have known. Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court to hear. My name is Balthazar Balloon. I am the impresario of the hot air balloons in vicinity of the Esperimento. Oh, does he have an accent? Okay. I am the impresario of all the hot air balloons in vicinity of the Esperimento stage. Oh, Jesus. My name is Wilhelm Gottschalk Sigismund Ormstein. That's a mouthful. I hope I don't have to say that over and over again. I'm sure I will, though. I've come to see the great exhibition all the way from my home in Bohemia. Adorable. I'm very rich. Inspector Gina Lestrade, Scotland Yard. I'm a great detective, even Sherlock Sholmes agrees. I was on security duty at the exhibition, and I got to go up in one of them balloons. It was amazing. Gina, again. But she did mention that she'd seen the disaster from up in a balloon, actually, didn't she? She clearly loved every minute of it. There were 3 balloons flying near the public experimentation stage when the incident occurred. 2 of these witnesses were in one such balloon at the time and saw events unfold from the skies above. You make it sound like they were in the clouds. It was only an altitude of circa 60 feet, very low. Well, you can't see nothing if you fly too high, can ya? 60 feet, about 18 meters then. Clack. Thank you for your introductions. Now, you will give your formal testimony for the court. Kindly describe exactly what you witnessed, especially those of you who had a vantage point above the stage. The view from 60 feet up. It was an incidente terribile. I am only grateful that my balloons were not damaged. There's this huge bang from the stage, and then the next second, another bang in the sky beside us. And from amid this smoke, a cage appeared out of nowhere. The cage, it fell from the sky like a stone. It crashed into the crystal tower. I have to do the Italian hand thing in order to do his voice. I didn't get a good look at inside the cage, but no one went near it after it crashed. I'm rolling her R's for some reason. Near it after it crashed into the tower. Doing three completely different accents is gonna fuck me up. A most extraordinary collective account, I must say. Could I just clarify something? There's a detail in the witness's testimony that I've not heard any mention of until now. Specifically, there were 2 explosions. More precisely, 2 explosions in 2 separate places, yes. When the demonstration began, the balloon carrying the 2 witnesses was around here. There were other balloons in the air nearby at the time, carrying other passengers as well, to be clear. Oh, that's right, I forgot. I need to check my diagram, because I think it's different from this. Then, as power was supplied to the machine for the demonstration, the first explosion occurred. The so-called bird cage that contained the victim disappeared from the stage, and a moment later... I gotta look at this. Yeah, look! There's 2 balloons on mine, but 3 on theirs. Okay, the so-called bird cage that contained the victim disappeared from the stage, and a moment later... the second explosion occurred directly adjacent to the balloon carrying the witnesses. And with coincidence, it happens on top of another balloon. The birdcage appeared at the site of the explosion, subsequently to the plummet. The birdcage appeared at the site of the explosion, subsequently to plummet down into the crystal tower. I was very surprised. Suddenly, a cage appeared before my eyes with a person inside. The blast was so hot, I didn't want to miss a thing, so I kept my eyes wide. Have a balloon. I still have lots of money. Alrighty. Precisely who is this curious infant? I'm told he is a young noble of Bohemian royalty. Apparently he disguised himself in order to steal unnoticed into the great exhibition. Ja, I am here in London on a sightseeing trip with my elementary school. We will have the benefit of a child's point of view in the testimony. Do we really need that? Then I remove my mask. This is what I look like. Oh, yes, I see. A delightful face, I'm sure. Ja, everybody says so. Why is his head bandaged up? Great disguise, then. The point is, the testimony of these witnesses further substantiates the facts for the court. Namely, that despite ending in an explosion, instantaneous kinesis was successfully demonstrated. And furthermore, that until the arrival of the police, no one approached the Crystal Tower where the victim fell. Therefore, only the accused who was with Mr. Osman on the stage could possibly have committed the murder. Yes, thank you, counsel. The prosecution's view on the matter are quite clear. So, the defense's cross-examination now, please. Yes, my lord. Alright. It was an incidente terribile. I am only grateful my balloons were not damaged. Hold it. There were 3 balloons flying above the experimentation stage at the time, I understood. See, all three of them, my bellissimi bambini. They are very popular, signor. Some people will pay £10 for one ride. £10? That's more than my annual stipend. £20 a month, that is my pocket money. Royals have all the luck. I got up there for free, I did. Played the old I work for Her Majesty's police card, you know. Detectives have all the luck. If they're so popular, why would you only be operating such a small number of balloons, though? Because, if I have too many in the sky, they could crash into each other. The operators for other balloons were decided by lots, with each operator manning a particular area. See, and the zone above the public experimentation stage is the most profitable. The other impresarios, they hate me. Thank you, witness. I think the court has a clear picture of the arrangements for balloon rides at the exhibition. Perhaps we could hear more about what you actually witnessed of the incident. Right. I can fill you in there, my lord. There's this huge bang from the stage, and then the next second another bang in the sky beside us. Oh, wait, no. Okay, we gotta cross-examine her. Hold it. So you actually saw the accident happen from up in the air? Yup. Isn't it amazing what a detective gets to do, eh? I'm telling you, Odo, being a lawyer is a mug's game. You should join the force and we can go flying together. You know me so well. Yes, well, anyway, could you tell us exactly what you saw, do you think? Everything. I saw everything. We saw everything because we were up above it all. That dodgy cove climbing into the cage, and that dodgy professor pulling all them levers. And that's when it happened. That's when there was that massive bang, and the cage disappeared, just like that. You are describing the moment the subject's body was decomposed by the electricity, I believe. I didn't know what to make of it, but then there was another bang right in me ear. I looked around and there was a huge there was a huge great fireball right next to us in the sky. There was nothing there before. Oh. I almost missed that. The kid.
Excuse me.
Excuse me? Excuse me, kiddo. Master Gotts, does your memory of the day differ? My teacher at elementary school said that when you meet someone for the first time, you should always use their full name. Oh, screw off, you kid. Yes, what was that again? Wilhelm Gottreich Sigismund Ormstein. Just the four names, then. The point is, do you have something to say? Something to add in response to Detective Gina Lestrade's last remark, perhaps? Oi, get it right, Odo. It's Inspector Lestrade. Why does everyone have a problem with how I address them at the moment? That is not what I saw. Oh? Ja, there was a second explosion and it was right beside our balloon. That is true. But I'm sure, which is what I said, isn't it? 1 minute there was nothing there, and the next a massive explosion. My teacher at elementary school said that when someone else is speaking, if you are rude enough to interrupt, you will have the most awful day imaginable. Are all Bohemians brought up to be so full of joy? Another balloon, please. Enjoy the balloon. Just before the second explosion happened next to our balloon, I clearly witnessed a green balloon flying in the sky. A green balloon, you say? You what? I never saw nothing like that. Well, I did. I saw it, and you can't say I didn't. I will complain to the council. I will cry and scream. My testimony is the truth. I am Bohemian Prince. You cannot say it is lie. That is not allowed. Tch, playing the bleeding royalty card, are you? Typical. Says the orphan who likes to remind people she works for Her Majesty's police. Clack. In that case, young man, I must ask you to amend your formal testimony. In the interest of cordial national relations between Great Britain and Bohemia, it was not the sky that exploded, it was a green balloon that was next to us at the time. Huh. Oh, wait. No, back.
Hold it!
I want to hear. I think I know what a piece of evidence is now. A green balloon, you say? Are you sure about that? Of course I am sure. I am proud Bohemian Prince. All these questions are making me boring. I think you mean bored. Ugh, English is very annoying. The language of my countrymen is far superior. Ragazzo, it is a very wrong to a lie. Lie? Flying balloons never explode for the same reason the planet never explodes. It is logical. Please tell me that doesn't mean logical. If you insult me, you insult all of Bohemia. Madai. I will have the army come and shoot all of your stupid balloons out of the sky. All of them. I will have a balloon. Oh, I have a balloon. Here you are, your highness. If only all international incidents were so easily resolved. Now that peaceful relations have been restored here in this courtroom, perhaps we could return to the testimony. Did you also see the moment that the cage materialized, Mr. Loon? No, I did not see the explosion myself. However, the cage, it fell from the sky like a stone and crashed into the crystal tower.
Hold it!
Hold it. Did you see that actually happen? No, in reality I did not. I saw after it hit the tower. There was a grand confusion around the stage. I ran to see what had happened. I was terrorized by the idea that one of my balloons had crashed. I suppose they are his livelihood. But when I looked up in the sky, all my precious balloons were still there. I saw it, though. I saw it slam into the tower. After all, I am a detective now. I'm losing her accent because I can't keep all three of these going at the same time. Then tell us what you saw, Inspector Lestrade. That's what I'd like to hear. I didn't go to look inside the cage, but no one went near it after it crashed into the tower. Okay. Was it you who gave the order to keep people away? Hey, you sure it, Odo. How could it have been me? I was up in a balloon, weren't I? Right. So 'cause I weren't available, it was the boss who had to leg it over there. He was getting shoved and kicked all over by the panicking spectators as he tried to seal off the scene. It was a real sight to behold, I can tell you. Amazing. Poor Inspector Gregson. So anyway, I couldn't see the cage that well 'cause of all the smoke. I'm losing her voice. I can't really, and I didn't really want to see, to be honest. I was so scared out of me wits. Keep it together, Inspector. The prosecution really is asserting that the demonstration was genuine, but what if it was actually some kind of switch-around trick instead? That would mean that the victim was never actually on the stage in the first place. The two explosions would have thrown everyone watching into a panic for sure. I think I need to find out more about what exactly people saw at the time. It was an incident terribly. I am grateful that my balloons were not damaged. Wait. Whoa. It's gotta be. This has gotta be it. Mr. Loon, in your testimony, you said that all three of the balloons you had operating at the time were undamaged. See, that is correct. If they had been caught in the explosion, it would have been terrible. I wonder if you might know what this is? Ah, I think it may be. See, part of a balloon, a burnt piece of fabric of the envelope. Sorry, the envelope? Pardon, this is the large round part of the balloon which becomes filled with hot air. It is made from very thick fabric lined with rubber. You do not want it to rip when you are in the sky. Just as I thought. This piece of cloth was found near the experimentation stage. In other words, as Master Gott testified, a green balloon did indeed explode that day. If all the balloons in the sky above the experimentation stage belong to you, Mr. Loon, then your statement that they were all undamaged clearly contradicts the evidence. Oh no! The balloon exploded that day. Maybe everyone on board was killed. Oh no, having just spent 10 whole pounds for the experience. How awful. Seems to me like those things crash 50% of the time. Objection! The instantaneous kinesis did occur, but after the explosion on the stage, the point of materialization shifted to a location occupied by a balloon, causing the balloon to explode. Yes, eminently plausible. An unfortunate traffic accident, as it were, but it changes nothing about the pertinent facts. Hold it. This I cannot accept. Why not, Mr. Loon? You are suggesting that I am a liar. That persons died in a balloon incident. There is no need to get fired up, Mr. Loon. The victim was the sole fatality that day. That's right, and I can prove it. Balthazar Loon is not a liar. There was no such balloon in the sky. It is non possibile. You're saying it's impossible. Why? This court has more important matters to discuss than the number of balloons that were operating that day. Hey. Objection. But we can't ignore the fact that nobody appears to have known anything about this other balloon until now. My lord, the defense calls for further testimony from Mr. Loon. Clack. I concur. There is clearly more to the truth here than meets the eye. It's imperative that we clear up this issue of the phantom balloon, I feel. Witness, you will give supplementary testimony about the balloons you are operating at the exhibition. Ah, grazie, my lord. Mr. Loon's balloons. As I said, Balthazar Loon is no liar. Every balloon I had in the sky landed safely. All three of my balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground in an explosion, what a catastrophe! But you can't get away from the fact there was a burnt up bit of cloth was found at the scene, can ya? The coppers at Scotland Yard reckon it was probably some debris thrown from the explosion on stage. This stupid old ragazzo is mistaken. My balloons have the red and blue zigzag stripes on them anyway. Okay, so it's not one of your balloons. Easy enough. So your assertion is that the balloon this child saw was not one belonging to you. Si, exactamente. If he ever saw a balloon in the first place. I do not like the sound of it. It is a very bad business. I have a good mind to sue the land of Bohemia. If you attack us, we will fight back. It will be war. All out war. One balloon, please. What happened to all out war? Mr. Loon certainly doesn't appear to be lying, but that doesn't change the fact that the testimony and evidence are contradictory here. If the defense is unable to find fault with the witnesses' statements, the court must consider them the truth. Think long and hard on that, my learned friend. The situation has clearly changed now. I have to get to the bottom of what's happened here, no matter what it takes. Clack. Counsel, you may now cross-examine the witnesses. Cross-examination. Mr. Loon's balloons. As I said, well, I'm no liar. Every balloon I had in Skyland safely. Hold it. You couldn't just have forgotten one, maybe. Senor, I might not notice if I was given 100 lentils and one was missing. But we are talking about three enormous balloons. Do you believe I could make a mistake about something so grand and expensive? I took the liberty of having Inspector Gregson check this gentleman's warehouse. I have the report here. It clearly says a total of 3 balloons. It could appear no mistake has been made, then. Surely Miss Lestrade could have been sent for such a menial task. What, me? I'll tell you what I told the boss. East End kids like me can only count up to 2. Obviously that ain't true, but the boss bought it and said he'd have a go himself in that case. Huh. All 3 of my balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground in an explosion, that would be a catastrophe. Okay, hold it. Be quite a catastrophe if they fell to the ground for any reason, I think. On that note, Mr. Loon, tell me, what is it that keeps these balloons in the sky? Are you an idiota? Sorry? This is like asking, why does a candle burn bright? It burns bright because it burns bright, and a balloon flies because it flies. What else? Huh. That must be Italian for, I don't know. There are 2 types of flying balloons. Hot air balloons and gas balloons. Hot air balloons work on the principle that the principle of hot air being less dense than cold air, whereas gas balloons derive their lift by using a gas that is lighter than air. See, and my balloons are filled with the magic gas, I believe. Hydrogen. Lighter than air, but highly explosive. Good Lord! I do not permit smoking of the cigarettes in any of my balloons. The magic gas does not like a fire. Even a small spark of static electricity could cause the entire balloon to explode. What is the matter with you, Senor? All that comes out of your mouth is explosion. Explosion! I tell you, my balloons are perfectly safe. They have to be, or I cannot eat. None of my balloons explode that day. I am completely sure. But if you still say that is what happened, you must show me the proof. Alright, so Mr. Loon had 3 balloons in the air that day. If none of them were damaged, then what was the one that exploded? But you can't get away from the fact that a burnt up bit of cloth was found at the scene, can ya? Hold it. I was surprised to find the piece of fabric still at the scene, actually. Didn't you search the area surrounding the stage for clues? Nah, it's not. I'm not into picking stuff off the ground, me. Always works out better diving into people's pockets instead. So much for the new career path. Mind you, the boss was on his hands and knees picking up all kinds of rubbish from the floor. Thing is though, the cage went crashing into the crystal tower, didn't it? So that's where most of the investigation was going on. Putting the wrong emphasis on the wrong word. Even so, I would have thought someone from Scotland Yard would have gathered it up as evidence. Cole, listen to you. You stumble across a bit of balloon and suddenly you're the best investigator in the world. Pardon? Well, you ain't got a badge, have ya? Like this one. I could arrest you with this if I wanted to. I wouldn't put it past her. Come to think of it, there was talk of some scorching on the ground at a meeting we had about the investigation. The coppers at the yard reckon it was probably some debris thrown from the explosion on the stage. Hold it. There was considerable damage to the stage and surrounding area, wasn't there? Yeah, some of the coves what were watching the experiment were caught in the blast and injured. Good job the old contraption didn't keel over, eh? I hadn't even considered that. It seems there was a great panic after the incident occurred. Nevertheless, the police shouldn't have missed a torn piece of envelope from a balloon. Inspector Gregson can expect repercussions. Like me swiping all his fish and chips, eh? The man's sole pleasure. None of this matters. That scrap of balloon envelope means nothing. Niente. This stupid old ragazzo is a mistake, and my balloons have the red and zigzag stripes anyway. Hold it. You mean the color is wrong? Si, signor. I do not have any green balloons in my warehouse. And yet, a piece of green cloth was found at the scene. It's unmistakably from a balloon. Well, I do not know how it came to be. For the sake of argument, let's say that a green balloon did explode above the stage. You couldn't therefore conclude that it happened on the day in question. Why not? There have been recreational balloons flying over Hyde Park operating from before the Great Exhibition. One could have exploded on some earlier date. Unfortunate, as I'm sure you'd agree. You believe it may have been from some earlier balloon accident that predates the exhibition? You're just pulling that out of your ass. Si, exactamente. As the Senor says, it is not from one of my balloons. Clearly this little ragazzo from Bohemia is mistaken about what he saw. This kid is tired of being slandered. Okay, spill it, kid. I want to hear this. Is something wrong, Master Gotts? It's Master Wilhelm Gottsreich Sigmund Ormstein, or however you say that. It was on the tip of my tongue. Something is very wrong. I know what I saw. There was a green balloon there. I swear it. I swear all over Bohemia. You can speak as much bad language as you like, but it changes a nothing. If you do not have experience, ragazzo, then I must tell your parents to punish you, eh? Perhaps we'll let the judge decide when it comes to punishments. Evidence? What is this evidence? To give a simple explanation, young man. Example, a photograph, for instance. A tangible proof of what you claim. Well, why didn't you say so sooner? I have the photograph here. Good gracious! What? Look at the characters on the side. I had not been up in a balloon for a little while, so I was very excited. I took lots and lots of photographs of the Crystal Tower, of the Bohemian exhibit, of the streets of London, of the hot eel cellar, the balloon, and the instantaneous kinesis experiment. Did you take a picture of that? Ja, one picture. Really? You did take one? But all I wanted was a ride in a balloon. I was not interested in boring experiments. Never mind that. Can you show us the photograph? Of course. And then you will see. You will see that I am not lying. That I really did see a green balloon. I'm doing like half German, half Italian with that kid. Well, I see you are all too shocked to speak. Yes, I think shocked is indeed the word, young man. Ja, perhaps you cannot see that it was a green balloon, but this from this photograph, but that is not my fault. That is the fault of the stupid person who made the camera. Bah! Bah! That is one very bohemian sounding cry. Ah! Bah! Well, very well, the court will accept this photograph as evidence. The photograph of the balloon has been entered into the court record. Alright. It's not my fault. It's the fault of the person who made the camera. Well, never mind. I'm sure you have plenty of wonderful sepia memories to take home with you. In any case, when exactly did you take that photograph? Well, it was on the day of the big explosion. You don't say. When I pressed the shutter release, there was this very loud bang, and a hot wind rushed over my face. That means this photograph was taken a split second before the explosion occurred. Well, if you ask me, this black and white photograph changes nothing. I could not give the flying fig. Lovely language you picked up. As I thought, Mr. Loon's testimony just doesn't quite add up. The young bohemian boy claims to have seen another fourth balloon, but Mr. Loon vehemently denies the possibility. And it's hard to imagine the man in charge could be mistaken about the number that were in the air. Still, this inconsistency must tell us something, I'm sure. Okay, I want to take a look at this picture again, because I saw something very interesting in this picture. Aha, this right here, this streak of something being shot up into the air. Okay, let's... All three of my balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground, explosion. What a catastrophe. Okay, which one is it? Mistaken, my balloons have a red or blue zigzag stripes anyway. Okay, it's one of these first two. All three of my balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground, an explosion. Okay, let's go with this one. Because there's clearly no passengers in the balloon that's in the picture. Unfortunately, the photograph Master Gotts took can't tell us the color of the balloon, but it can tell us something else, something crucially important. What? It shows that the pictured balloon wasn't carrying any passengers at all. Oh, my goodness, you're right! But surely all the balloons would have been carrying passengers. There would be no sense in it otherwise. See, they are for pleasure, for seeing the view. My balloons only fly with passengers. which tells us that the pictured balloon isn't one of them. So when the incident occurred that day, there was a fourth balloon in the sky above the experimentation stage. The mysterious green balloon. I know nothing. Niente. I can only tell you one thing. If this balloon was not carrying passengers, then it was not one of mine. That's all we were trying to establish, dude.
Objection!
Objection! There are illegal tradesmen everywhere you care to look. Clearly, one such entrepreneur decided to capitalize on the opportunity presented by the Great Exhibition and managed to operate balloon flights on Mr. Loon's patch without him realizing. See, the competizione, trying to steal my profits. I did not notice because of the esperimento that went wrong on the stage. This fourth balloon exploded at the very same moment Mr. Osman was beamed from the stage below. Right. So them scraps that fell to the ground from do-over. Right. So when them scraps that fell to the ground after and left them scorch marks, they didn't come from the stage at all. It was bits of the balloon raining down. But 'cause no one was in it, it didn't get no attention. A mysterious fourth balloon carrying no passengers, silently floating over the experimentation stage.
Objection!
Objection! This photograph shows us nothing more. A stray balloon carrying no one and operated by some rogue trader. Clearly it has nothing to do with the case. Its relevance does elude me, I must say. The court has seen sufficient evidence and heard ample testimony already. The prosecution calls for this trial to be concluded. Really? Have we really got to the truth yet? No, I can't let this opportunity slip away. The jurors' minds are made up, and not in our favor. What else can this photograph tell us? Is there nothing more we can learn from it? Oh, there's more. But wait, there's more! Objection. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, wait. Please don't give your decisions yet. The photograph from Master Gotts, may well be hiding one more vital clue. What's that? A vital clue?
Objection!
Objection. We're well past the point of mere possibilities. It's time for definitives now, so tell the court. What exactly does this alleged clue in the photograph prove? The cause of the explosion. We can reasonably assume that the pictured balloon was destroyed in the searing heat of an explosion. Ja, that's right, Ja. It was not my fault. Evidently. Because the birdcage from the kinesis machine materialized in the sky where it had been flying. And the balloon, being filled with flammable hydrogen, instantly and explosively ignited. Objection. No, that's not what happened. What? Clack. It would appear that this photograph requires closer examination. Counsel for the defense, you will highlight the location of this alleged clue in the photograph for the court. Of course, my lord. If you look closely, it's plain enough to see. What's shown is linked to another piece of evidence we have. In a way, that leads to an unbelievable conclusion. That clue that heavily suggests the real reason the balloon exploded is right here.
Take that!
Take that! The timing of this photograph can only be described as miraculous. If you look, you'll notice there's a bright white line that appears to point directly at the balloon. Most likely a ray of light caught incidentally on the film. I'm afraid I can see nothing of the sort. If you look with a magnifying glass, my lord, it becomes clear what the nature of this bright light, of what this bright line really is. Goodness, what is that? Undeniably some flash of light, yes. Oh, golly, do you think it might be lightning? But it couldn't have been a finer day. I believe we may be looking at fire. A bolt of fire heading straight for the balloon, like an arrow. Indeed, even to my aging eyes, it would appear to be a flame of some sort. My word, are you suggesting this flame struck the hydrogen gas that filled the balloon?
Objection!
Objection. That's absurd. The balloon would have been 60 feet above the ground at the time. No flame could possibly reach such a height.
Objection!
Objection. Actually, it's my opinion that a particular piece of evidence found at the scene reveals how this is exactly what did happen. What evidence? Clack. If such evidence exists, counsel, then for goodness sake, present it, man. Which evidence explains this mysterious streak of flame that appears to be headed directly for the balloon? Why, it would be this one, the crossbow. Take that. This was found hidden, not really hidden, at the foot of a small ornamental tree near the scene. Good Lord! Is that a crossbow? An arrow dipped in oil and set alight could have been shot from this weapon, sending a flame arrow straight into the hydrogen-filled balloon. Are you suggesting that that crossbow was used to deliberately... Blimey, you're right! That streak of light in the photo looks just like an arrow, doesn't it? Then, the explosion of the balloon, it was, very likely the result of a flaming arrow from this crossbow igniting the hydrogen gas inside it. No! Clack, clack, clack. Order, order! Counsel, this is an extraordinary supposition. If the aim was to cause the balloon to explode, the shooter could have used a gun, of course. However, there's an obvious reason why that would have been out of the question. The noise of the discharge, of course. That's right. By using a crossbow, the projectile could be fired at the balloon silently. But yeah, if someone had shot a gun off at the exhibition grounds, it would have caused a real panic. But with the big explosion, there was a very big a panic anyway, no? I don't like this. I should be pleased to have found a plausible new explanation for all this, but something feels wrong. Objection, of course. Do you understand the implication of what you're saying, my Nipponese friend? If a flaming arrow did indeed hit the balloon, then obviously it would have exploded. And if the birdcage appeared from the cloud of smoke that ensued... What? Wait a minute! What are you really saying here? I don't get it. Was the birdcage beamed up into the sky after all, or what? My goodness me! Ah, now I understand. That's what that sinking feeling is about. I think there's a good chance that the birdcage was actually concealed inside the balloon all along. What? Did I just hear that correctly, Counsel? There's no going back now. The horse has bolted. Let's assume, as I said, that the birdcage was hidden inside the green balloon from the start. On stage, when the experiment was started, the birdcage and the instantaneous kinesis machine disappeared in a cloud of smoke. At that moment, the flaming arrow was fired from the ground, causing the green balloon to explode and drawing the attention of the spectators to the sky above their heads. From amid the smoke, the hidden birdcage then appeared to fall down and crash into the crystal tower. I think you'll all agree it's entirely plausible that what I've just described is the real truth behind the miraculous experiment carried out that day. But this good grief!
Objection!
Objection. This is ludicrous. What you described is no science experiment. It's child's play, a contemptible display of stage magic. Both Mr. Sholmes and Iris said that the experiment was a scientific impossibility, in which case, this is the only way to explain what happened that day. And in any case, the victim's body was found inside the birdcage in the Crystal Tower. If the instantaneous kinesis didn't take place, how do you explain that? If I may put into words, yes, I knew this was coming. You have a stage magician who just happens to be on the jury. As a man of magic myself, such apparent discrepancies can easily be explained by some simple deception. Juror number 3. All that would be needed is a doppelganger, someone who looked very much like the victim, Mr. Osmond, and having this other man appear on stage in front of the show as a body double. Ah, yes, of course. So, in fact, Mr. Osmond must have been inside the birdcage that was concealed inside the balloon right from the start.
Objection!
Objection! That balloon would have been filled with hydrogen. Anything hidden inside it would have been scattered to the 4 winds when it exploded. No one would ever have embarked on such a risky venture. Not necessarily. The explosive force of the balloon would very much depend upon the mixture ratio. Juror number 4. Flying balloons are rarely filled with pure hydrogen, but a mixture of other gases such as helium as well. Helium on its own doesn't explode, but by controlling the gas mixture ratio, the explosive force can be altered. The mixture ratio? Obviously, the victim's body would have suffered some burns, but that would be unavoidable. But not to such an extent as to render the whole obscene charade impossible. So everything that happened can be explained logically and scientifically. The explosion that engulfed the stage at the start of the experiment was no accident. It was all part of an elaborate deception to make it appear that instantaneous kinesis had occurred. Well, goodness me. And if we accept that this is what happened, it means that the victim, Mr. Osmond, was never present on the public experimentation stage to begin with. Ugh. In short, he couldn't have been killed by the defendant, who was on stage in full view the entire time. Ugh. Wow, I'm really getting the best of him. Something's got to go wrong then. This will be very hard for the prosecutor to counter. Lord Van Zieks can't credibly maintain that Professor Harebrain is a suspect now. It's gotta be. Damn it. Mr. Naruhodo, I appreciate your efforts. Thank you. Professor? But you can stop now. Just keep your mouth shut, please. Sorry? What's all this about, Mr. Harebrain? I, Albert Harebrain, hereby confess that it was me who stabbed Mr. Odie Osmond. Yes, it was me, with my faithful friend and partner, Andrew the Screwdriver. What are you doing? Clack, clack, clack. Order, order, order! Defendant, explain this sudden confession. Objection. Professor Harebrain, what are you talking about? It's what I've said all along. I must protect my hypothesis and my precious machine. You stand there and claim it was all a trick, all an elaborate prank, But where's your proof? No, you'd have to examine the machine if you wanted to prove it, but then it would be all over. My beautiful hypothesis would be laid bare. I mean, the indignity of it. It's clear that you drew the plans for the experiment, but you didn't actually build it. It's quite conceivable that you were duped, Professor, if you just let me... Barack. Yes? I'll cooperate. I'll do whatever you say, I swear it. So please, ensure that the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act is adhered to and protect my creation. So that's what that meeting was about. Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hallowed chalice at this critical juncture. Here's to my learned Nipponese friend. What? And his upcoming attempt to clarify the defense's position in light of the accused's confession. Do you intend to formally assert that the experiment was nothing more than a conjuring trick? Because the moment you do, the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act that protects the professor's invention will cease to apply. The prosecution will then demand a rigorous examination of the machinery involved in order to establish the truth. However, if you acknowledge that the machine is genuine and instrumental in the victim's murder, any chance of investigating will be crushed and the confidentiality of the professor's hypothesis preserved. Clack. Well, counsel, what is the defense's official position on this matter? What Professor Harebrain, my client, actually asked me was to prove that the explosion on stage was an accident and protect the secrecy of his hypothesis. But there's no way to do that without implying the professor's guilt. Do I protect my client's life by asserting his innocence, or do I uphold my client's request but see him condemned? Either way, I can't avoid betraying his trust. You've been silent long enough. Isn't talking your trade, my learned friend? Or has all knowledge of English escaped your confused Nipponese mind? Jesus, dude. Mr. Naruhodo! There's no escaping here. I have to make a choice. But it's an impossible one. I have to give up on something, but what? The defense asserts that the defendant's instantaneous kinesis machine was in fact a conjuring trick. I don't care. That's the right answer. I have to get him acquitted above all else. Ugh. No, I can't say it. My client places faith in me. I can't just let him down. What must I give up on is not the question you have to ask yourself here. It's, what can I protect? Hello again, Mr. Naruhodo. It's been far too long. Susato! What the hell are you wearing? But, what? My first Susato takedown in 6 months. There'll be time to talk later, Mr. Naruhodo. For now, we must concentrate on the task at hand. Which is working out not what I have to give up on, but what I can protect. Which is my client's life, which is the point I was making. Professor Harebrain. Yes. Yesterday you told me that science is the pursuit of truth. Well, my job is to pursue the truth too. Yes, of course. And personally, I believe that you didn't stab Mr. Osmond. I think you've come to realize something yourself too, haven't you? That your experiment and the machine you built with the victim are questionable. The truth behind that is what we must both pursue now. Ah! Oh no! So, you finally opened your eyes. What? And as for you, Albert, you can't ignore this any longer. Ah. Having heard my learned friend's assertion, don't you have something to say? But Barack! Lord Van Zeeks. Gosh, I've never heard him speak that way before. Oh, by the way, the costume she has on is part of the costume pack. I turned it on during the save. In truth, there is one thing, something I've remembered that's of relevance. What? On the day it happened, just before I began the experiment, I saw a man near the stage. A man holding that crossbow. I beg your pardon. Professor! Did the man have any distinguishing features? What did he look like? Taller than me, and thinner than me, with straight hair, straighter and wider than mine. Let me see, one less lens than me too, a monocle, a rather stylish black monocle. But one thing in particular will help to positively identify the man. You see, I know him very well. After all, he's the engineer who built my invention. What? He built the machine? That's right. Mr. Osmond introduced him to me this year. A year ago, rather. He's a man by the name of Enoch Drebber. Enoch Drebber? Does this name mean something? Members of the jury seem flustered. Not a name any scientist wishes to hear. The man's an abomination. Not a name any conjurer wishes to hear either. Who on earth is he? I'm afraid this isn't the first tale of this nature that I've heard in scientific circles in connection with this name. There's talk of other flamboyant experiments that turn out to be nothing but stage trickery in the end. Obviously, the rascal is after the government's research grant money. When magicians are in need of money, I have heard of them resorting to these underhanded tactics. Some acquaintances of mine with experience in such things have mentioned Enoch Drebber's name before. The man is both an engineer and a magician. Yes, we're dealing with an unparalleled confidence trickster here. That's Enoch Drebber for you. So it's true then. My invention, my great machine, it was just a grand illusion. Considering we've just heard about Mr. Drebber's character, considering what we've just heard about Mr. Drebber's character, I'm sorry to say that sounds increasingly likely. Even though no one else believed it, I wanted to. I wanted to believe that machine could function exactly as my hypothesis predicted. Which is why you were so opposed to it being investigated, I presume. I knew that if the machine was examined in detail, its construction would give away my hypothesis. Obviously, I didn't want that to happen, but at the same time, I knew that if it was found to be nothing more than a trick, than a work of deception, then everything I'd worked towards, all my research, all my dreams, my whole life would be over. I was terrified at the prospect. So you really had no idea then, did you? About the true nature of the machine that was built, and the true nature of Mr. Drebber. I never questioned anything. I didn't want to question it. It's entirely possible that Mr. Osmond and Mr. Drebber were working together to use you as a means of fraudulently acquiring research grant money. When I announced my invention to the crowds that day, it was the finest moment of my career. I pulled all the levers and turned on all the dials in exactly the way Drebber had described. When the smoke suddenly started billowing out, I panicked. I didn't know what was happening. But I really don't know how the whole illusion was made to work. I don't know anything anymore. Alright, enough with the sappy scene. Let's move on. Let me confirm one final point with you, Professor. Do you now consent to the prosecution submitting the necessary paperwork to release your invention from the protection afforded by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act? Was this all part of Van Zeek's plan? Like, it seems like he was trying to get this result. Yes, please, go ahead. I'm very sorry. So, it seems like he just manipulated Ryunosuke to get that to happen. It would appear that we shall have to suspend proceedings for the remainder of the day now. Lord Van Zeeks, my lord, the court has newly been made aware of another party whose involvement in this matter is critical. Yes, Mr. Drebber. Gather information about the man, if possible. I should like him served with a subpoena. With pleasure, my lord. Now, counsel for the defense. Yes, my lord? When we reconvene, I shall be looking for one thing and one thing alone from you. Evidence that the defendant is innocent of the crime for which he presently stands accused. I understand. Good. In that case, this court is adjourned until tomorrow morning. Clack. February, October, 1:36 p.m. The Old Bailey, Defendant's Antechamber. Mr. Naruhodo! Yes? I'm so sorry. I was wrong. You were right. I tricked you. You trusted me. I dragged you into my mess. Oh, how did it ever come to this? I'm so sorry. Did you really have no idea, Professor? About what Mr. Drebber was really up to, I mean? About what he was really constructing? Naturally. That machine was the embodiment of my hypothesis, of all my hopes and dreams. I had complete faith in it. Alright, in that case, I won't say any more. Now, sadly, the murder accusation against you still stands, so we must do as much investigation as we can before the trial resumes tomorrow. Well, thank you for doing so much for me. I'm so sorry for arriving late this morning, Mr. Naruhodo. Arriving late? Didn't you receive my postcard? I wanted to let you know when I'd arrived. Postcard? What postcard? I hid it from you, Bruno, so it would be a surprise. Well, did it work? I was surprised, all right, especially when she threw me to the ground. Oh dear, I'm so sorry. I was just so happy to see you again that it sort of slipped out. Maybe we could stick to more traditional displays of emotion in the future. Susie's train was late into London Victoria this morning, you see. So we made the coachman really whip the horses hard so we didn't miss the whole trial. I was watching from the gallery for a while, but in the end, I'm afraid I couldn't contain myself. Well, I'm glad you didn't. Oh? Having you at my side in court gives me the strength I need to win. So I'm, delighted to see you back in London. Oh, you're too kind, Mr. Naruhodo. I'm delighted to be here. I hope I can continue to be of service to you. Of course. So, what's brought you back? Did Professor Mikotoba not protest? Let's save all that conversation for when we're back at home, shall we? You know, I've made one of my most special blends ever for this special occasion. Oh, Iris, how wonderful. I can't wait. Susato was back in London. It's hard to describe how happy that made me feel at the time, but despite my elation, our tale was about to take yet another extraordinary turn. To be continued. And I got an autosave right as the chapter was ending. I love when that happens. Save your current progress? Yes. And I have to go get something to drink because my throat is starting to get scratchy again. So I'll be back in a flash. It's the 23rd of October, 2:41 p.m., Naruhodo's Legal Consultancy. Oh, this room. It's been too long. It hasn't changed in the slightest, though. And it's been some 6 months, hasn't it? That's a long time for things to stay so familiar. I didn't know when you might return, and I wanted everything to look as you'd left it. But it has been some 6 months, it's true. So is your father all right, Susie? What happened? My father? Yes, the guy who is responsible for your existence. You know, that guy? Professor Mikotoba. I mean, it was half a year ago, but that's why you went back to Japan. Because of the telegram you received saying that he'd fallen ill with a very high fever for some unknown reason. That's right. So I was surprised to learn you'd be coming back so soon. Surprised, but happy. I think I wrote about it in my letter to you, that it was all a trick. My father is in fine health, and I'm obviously very relieved about that. Well, we're all delighted to have you back. It was quite by accident that I've been able to return to Europe, actually. It's because of a very grand conference called the International Forensic Science Symposium. The International Science Forensic... that's the same symposium Lord Strongheart mentioned. Anyway, I've arrived safe and sound, and all that matters is that I'm here now. After all, I haven't yet fulfilled my promise to you, Iris. Oh! You must tell us everything that happened while you were back in Japan. Yes, of course, I shall. And there's one other thing. Something you wrote in your letter that particularly grabbed my attention. About you-know-who. About Kazuma. I know. I'll tell you all that I can. Back in Britain. When I first arrived back in Japan, I really thought I'd never be allowed to return to Britain. But curiously, after that awful trial at the Supreme Court, Father's mood changed entirely. The awful trial. Oh yes, for the murder of Giselle Brett.
Oh, you dressed as a man then, didn't you, Susie? Oh, well, yes. Since women are forbidden in the courtroom, I had no choice. Oh, amazing! I wish I'd seen it. Don't you, Runo?
Yes, I suppose so.
I want to play at being a lawyer too now. I could wear a false mustache, maybe.
I don't think any mustache could hide the fact that you're just 10 years old, Iris. There's something else I've been wanting to ask you, Miss Susato. It's about the real reason why Professor Mikotoba summoned you back to Japan. You said in your letter that it was something to do with that convict's loot we found in Mr. Natsume's lodgings.
That's right, the very large dog collar we found with the bee emblem on it. It seems Mr. Natsume included a drawing of the collar in the report he submitted about his time in Great Britain. I understand that when Father saw the report, he turned as white as a sheet.
I think I was right, guys.
Why would that be then? Father came to Britain himself, of course, to study. It was some time ago now, but he stayed for 6 years. I can only imagine that something must have happened during that time. But if he refuses to tell me what it was, then I intend to find the answers for myself. And I've decided that I, for one, won't keep any more secrets. Oh, Susie!
That's a very meaningful look Susato's giving Iris there. Okay. Lord Strongheart mentioned something about that symposium, too. I think he said that investigative authorities from 40 different countries would attend.
Yes, and from Japan, my father and Judge Jigoku have been invited. It's something of an honor, I believe.
Well, Professor Mikotoba is the leading expert in forensic medicine in our country, after all. But who's the other person you mentioned? A judge, did you say?
Yes, His Excellency, Judge Shishiro Jigoku. You've met him, Mr. Naruhodo. Last year, in the Supreme Court, you can't possibly have forgotten.
That terrible trial of yours when you were accused... Oh, sorry, Susato.
That terrible trial of yours when you were accused of murder.
Ah, yes, I try to think about that as a positive turning point in my life these days.
Well, it was Judge Jigoku who presided over that trial.
If I'm perfectly honest, I'd be happy never to see that man's face again in my life.
Oh, well, anyway, as Father was invited to the symposium, he agreed to me returning to Britain, too. He won't actually arrive until next month, but, well, I couldn't wait. So I pleaded with him, and in the end he agreed to me going on ahead.
Yes, about the symposium. It seems as though Lord Strongheart has put in an awful lot of work to make it happen. It's obviously very important.
I believe it is, yes. As I understand it, Lord Strongheart organized the entire event himself. I think he's hoping that by achieving exceptional results, he'll get a job of Attorney General.
The job of Attorney General, she said. The most senior position in Britain in the British justice system.
He's hoping to use his power to create the world's finest policing institution. That's what Father said anyway. Apparently it's Lord Strongheart's lifelong ambition.
Does Professor Mikotoba know Lord Strongheart personally then, I wonder? Actually, Lord Strongheart gave me a long speech about this very subject only yesterday. But I sort of lost the will to live early on and didn't really listen to much of it.
How trying for you.
Giselle Brett. The woman whose unforgivable actions ended in me being wrongly accused of a crime I didn't commit. A little redundant there.
The murder of Dr. John H. Wilson. Don't say that too loud. The little girl can read your thoughts. We've discovered that, Ryunosuke. Yes, Giselle Brett. That's a name I won't forget for as long as I live. The extraordinary thing is, though, it seems it's the name we should all forget. Sorry? Since the incident, our government's intelligence services have been investigating Miss Brett. But it turns out that an Englishwoman by the name of Giselle Brett didn't actually exist. Didn't exist? But how could that be? It was a pseudonym. Her real name is Shin. Oh, I looked this up between videos. That was the fourth name on that list of 4 people that was given at the end of the first game. And she wasn't a visiting student either. That was a front. A front? Who on earth was she then? Is that why she always had the mask up over her face so that we couldn't see her eyes? Miss A. Shin. Her name is literally all our intelligence services have been able to ascertain about her. So I was right. This A. Shin character is dead, as is Dr. John H. Wilson, as is Kazuma is assumed dead, but I think we're getting different messages now. So yeah, it seems the sign of the 4 thing that I was talking about at the beginning of this chapter is looks like I'm right on the money, guys. Nobody knows why or even how she came to be in Japan. It's a complete mystery, but that makes no sense. It's no easy task to be accepted as a foreign student anywhere. Wait, did I read that right? It's no easy task to be accepted as a foreign... Okay, yeah. What could the woman have been up to? I'm afraid I don't really know. The only thing we can be sure of is that she had some business in our country that we didn't yet understand. Okay, so maybe she wasn't Japanese. Where the hell did she come from then? You say she wasn't British either. And now she's been killed. While all the questions surrounding her existence remain unanswered. I'm afraid so. A. Shin. Who on earth is she? And why do I feel as though I've heard that name before somewhere? Well, it has been 6 months, guys, so... Cut the guy some slack. After my friend Ray's trial, the reporter who actually killed Miss Brett said something very strange. I know the truth. I know you had a hand in what went on. Aha! And in that visiting student's fate. Aha! Nobody here in Japan knows anything about it. They don't know that guy never made it to England, that he died on that steamship, and that he'll never... And that's when he gets thrown down by the judge. Obviously, I couldn't ask him to elaborate at the time, but later I visited the man in his prison cell and asked him what he was going to say about Kazuma. And what did you learn? After he died on the voyage to Great Britain, his body should have been unladen at the port of Hong Kong and passed into the care of the consulate staff there. Should have been. Well, it turns out that his body never arrived. It just disappeared. What? Kazuma's body vanished? Our government tried to cover up the fact. It seems they erected a grave on the cliffs by our hometown, except Kazuma isn't there. Did Professor Mikotoba know about this? Yes, it would seem that he did. Uh-huh. But he didn't tell me. They're still investigating what happened to Kazuma's body as we speak. I just don't believe it. And what is this acute feeling of apprehension I have all of a sudden? The Kazuma mystery. Thinking back now, some of the things that happened on the SS Burya were definitely strange. I mean, after he died, we never saw his body again, did we? Could it be? Could it be that he's actually still alive? Stop it, Naruhodo. It's too much to bear. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to... Just thinking about that possibility pains me so very much. Cast your mind back for a moment, Mr. Naruhodo. When Kazuma was discovered, Mr. Sholmes... Oh, I'm sorry, Susato. When Kazuma was discovered, Mr. Sholmes was there, wasn't he? And he definitely examined the body. I remember it clearly. Ah, you're right. So if Kazuma hadn't actually been dead at all, it would seem that Mr. Sholmes has lied to us. But there's no reason why he would possibly have done such a thing. I suppose that's true, yes. Unless he's in on it. What the hell's going on? The idea that he might still be alive somewhere. It wants to fill me with hope, but I can't let it. Because if it turned out not to be true, then I'd be back at the bottom of that awful pit of despair again. I'm terrified of what that might do to me. Oh, Miss Susato. I know she's given the idea the thought it deserves. It's Susato we're talking about after all. So I probably shouldn't push it now. Okay. Wait a minute. We can't move? Well, as long as, I have another note here for the shovel. Thinking back, that spade's been in here since we first moved in, hasn't it? I'm sure I've told you before, Mr. Naruhodo, it's not a spade, it's a shovel. No, shovels are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material. It's a spade. No, spades are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material. It's a shovel. The Great Spade Shovel War rages on. Okay, no achievement for that just yet. We still got to examine it 2 more times to get the achievement. But actually, we've already looked at everything in this room. So what do we do? Do I gotta present something to her? Sure. About this paper, Miss Susato. Yes, it's all about the great exhibition. I've been dreaming about it, you know. I was sorry that you were going to miss it when you were called back to Japan. So was I. I felt desperately unlucky. But here I am, back in London while it's underway. It's a dream come true. Perhaps we're not as... Oh, perhaps we're not as unlucky as you thought, then. Once we've helped Professor Harebrained out of this terrible situation, we should all explore it together. And of course, we must invite the Professor's good friend, Lord Van Zieks, as well. Your luck might not stretch that far. Well, I could show her all this. It might be kind of tedious, though. I don't think any of this would advance the story. Oh, okay. I forgot she was here. It must be about a year ago now. I wrote a really long story based on some of my father's old notes. It's about one of Hurley's greatest exploits. I call it The Hound of the Baskervilles. Aha! But then Mr. Sholmes forbade you from publishing it and put the manuscript somewhere nobody could get their hands on it. So nobody knows anything about it apart from Hurley and I. Apart from Hurley and me. Anyway, but But for some reason, you knew about the title of it, didn't you, Susie? Ah! All of this is coming back. Oh, since the costume pack is on, we're not only are we getting her festival costume in the present, but we're also getting in the cutscenes, the flashback cutscenes as well, which doesn't make any sense, but that's how it works. Oh, it sounds so exciting! The Hound of the Baskervilles. I should love to read it. No, she's turning British there. I should love to read it. And you wouldn't tell me how you'd come to know it. Yes, I made you a promise that I would explain one day, didn't I? I think it's time. Oh. I'm only sorry I had to keep it from you for so long, Iris. Yeah, I'm screwing up their accents. Because their voices are like practically the same. One is British and the other one isn't. It was completely by accident that I came to know the title of your manuscript, Iris. It was a short while before we left Japan. I was cleaning Father's study and I saw something on his writing desk. A large box of papers. There was a label affixed to the box that was written in English. It read, "The Hound of the Baskervilles." What? My Baskerville story? Of course, I had no idea what it was at the time, but Father came in and...
Susato, what do you think you're doing?
Oh, Father.
Did you look at those papers?
No, I simply read the label, that's all.
Well, put it out of your mind.
Sorry?
Forget that you ever saw it, and certainly don't tell anyone else about this. Do you understand? So this does all tie together. I was right. But what was Iris's manuscript doing in Japan?
I have no idea. But when I heard Iris mentioned the word Baskerville that day, the title just slipped out. I would never have guessed that it was an unpublished account of one of Mr. Sholmes's exploits. When I returned to Japan, I asked Father to explain, but he refused to answer any of my questions, and there was no sign of the big box in his office. That's really all I know about it. I've no doubt that Father has a very good reason for being so secretive about it, but still, I made up my mind to explain myself to both of you. Well, thank you for being so honest, Susie. So, Mr. Naruhodo, I'm ready to start investigating if you are. I've committed every detail about the case to memory. Oh, how convenient. And Iris has told me about the disturbing happenings at the Waxwork Museum as well.
So you're fully abreast of the situation already, Mr. Sato. I'd expected nothing less, to be honest. Good, then we don't have to bring you up to speed.
How convenient. I would think our first port of call should be to investigate this Mr. Drebber, the engineer responsible for building the elaborate machine that was used to effect this extraordinary trick.
Yes, a conjurer of sorts, by the sound of it. Well known in the fields of science and magic.
Then we need to go and arrest him.
Well, yes. Get out of that stance, please. I don't want to be thrown to the floor. He must know the truth behind this case, so I agree we really do need to find the man.
It sounds like it's a case of tracking someone down, which is a job for the police, or a great detective.
Are we supposed to guess who she might be thinking of?
We don't have much time, so we need to get started straight away, I think. Good idea. Well, best of luck then. Oh, you're not coming today? I'm going to Brixton Road shortly for the herb market. But let me know later how you got on, won't you? Yeah, so I guess we only need one companion for this. That was a little abrupt. The pull of the herb market must be strong. Now we can move. A new location has been added. But before we go anywhere, we've got another achievement to get. And this time, 23rd of October, Sholmes is sweet. Yeah. I know where we are. Examine. This one actually is going to be an achievement because it's the last one we need to get for this chalkboard. The blackboard is where Iris scribbles down her latest ideas, isn't it? Let's see. Oh, she seems to have drawn a lot of little stick figures all lined up. Look. I don't see that at all. Cheap apples at the market is what all of them say. What? The little figures can speak? All your questions would be answered if only you would read this month's Pranced magazine. So I'm the only one who can't make any sense of this. Achievement get, the Herlockian. Okay. Excellent. Now, let's get a move on. And rather than go to where they want us to go, I'm going to Madam to Spells, because we have another achievement to get. It's the 23rd of October, Madam to Spells. Oh my, no wonder it's called the House of Horrors. I'd like to turn on my heels and go straight home via the confectionery. Being scared makes you crave sweets? I can understand that. I was looking forward to a reunion after 6 months away, but there's no sign of Mr. Sholmes anywhere. That's strange. He should be here investigating the abduction of the waxwork. Oh well, we'll just have to come back again later. But first, we gotta check out this ladder. There's a step ladder there, look. Oh yes, a step ladder. I think perhaps we should let the proprietress know that someone's left it out. The step ladder, I mean. Is something wrong? Oh, is something wrong? Why do I feel as though I just managed to sidestep an argument? Achievement get, the top rung. Okay, in Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, it's a running gag that Phoenix and Maya argue over whether or not this is called a ladder or a step ladder. And it happens in every single game. But anyway, let's see. Where are we going? Well, let's knock a few things out. Let's go to the Chief Justice's office, see if there's anything new. Oh, there is. It's the 23rd of October, British Supreme Court, Lord Chief Justice's office. Oh, who's that standing beside Lord Strongheart? I wonder, I've never seen her before. The young champion of the court. You had some success this morning, I understand. And you've thrown the entire government into disarray as a result. Oh, you mean because of Professor Harebrain's experiment? Sham science being demonstrated at London's great exhibition. The country's been made to look foolish, and now politicians are scrambling to respond. Well, it's not my fault. Lord Van Zeeks is in Wilhall as we speak, giving an emergency briefing. Oh dear, I didn't mean to cause any trouble. None of this is your responsibility. The government is entirely to blame for having been taken in. The special dispensation that prevents investigation at the scene will be annulled later today. Once that happens, my forensic investigation team will move in and deal with that scrap metal in no time. It's scrap metal now, is it? Until later then, Lord Strongheart. Let's give her like the what voice should we give her? Like the Baroness or something? How do you do the Baroness's voice? Until later then, Lord Strongheart. That's not the Baroness, but it's good enough. Yes, thank you. Who the hell was that? That was Dr. Courtney Scythe, Scotland Yard's esteemed chief coroner. She's leading the forensic investigation team's handling of this case. She was just delivering her report about the victim, in fact. Oh, I see, about Mr. Osmond. Following the outcome of the trial earlier, I asked the coroner's office to reevaluate its findings. I don't have any time to tell you what she concluded. If you want to know, you'll have to ask her directly. You can find her in the forensic laboratory. Ah, right. Now, what were you here to see me about? I can give you 7 minutes, 39 seconds. 7 minutes and 39 seconds of my time. So he's not running quite so spectacularly late anymore. Alright, let's have a chitty chat. Converse. Forensic investigation team. What exactly is the forensic investigation team that you mentioned before? Why, it's a team of forensic scientists. Isn't that obvious, dummy? The British Empire's police force must become the most exemplary in the world. For that to happen, it's imperative that we embrace forensic science and everything it has to offer. I first created the forensic investigation team a year ago now, unofficially of course, to pave the way. Goodness, a year ago? At next month's symposium, I intend to present the results of their work to the world. Once I do that, the House of Lords will be powerless to oppose the creation of a full-scale forensic division. That was rather... They will be powerless to stop me. This guy says things that sound very villainous sometimes. And once that happens, the position of Attorney General will be mine. I mean, and criminals will suffer dearly. What do you mean? For too long, those scoundrels have made a mockery of our legal system with false evidence and bribes. But London's scum is about to be rounded up and burnt in the fires of hell. I intend to see to it personally. By creating the finest police force in the world, the world has ever known to protect our honor and our future. For a safe and secure society. And we shall have peace. Look at those eyes. He means every word. Dr. Scythe is an extremely reliable coroner. When I officially establish the forensic division at Scotland Yard, she will run it as my right-hand woman. Now then, speaking of the symposium, Miss Mikotoba.
Oh, yes, my lord.
Your father should be on the high seas as we speak, making his way here to represent the Empire of Japan.
Yes, that's right. I understand he will arrive at the beginning of next month.
Are you I'm sorry, Ryunosuke. Are you acquainted, Lord Strongheart?
With Professor Mikotoba, I mean.
It was many years ago now, but yes, I remember Dr. Mikotoba very well.
Oh.
Well, do explain. If my memory serves, it was some 15 years ago now that your father came to Britain as a visiting student.
It was the year I was born, so yes, 16 years ago, in fact.
Mikotoba was a young practitioner of forensic science, and Jikoku accompanied him as a young, promising judge. So Jikoku was here too? The what? The punctiliousness and politeness of the Japanese at the time impressed us greatly, rather. Not that I wish to imply impoliteness and carelessness on your part in any way. I didn't think you were. Dr. Mikotoba studied forensic science at one of London's largest hospitals. St. Sinners, if I'm not mistaken. Did he say? Okay, yeah, it's still Strongheart. Dr. Scythe was also there then, as it happens. Oh, what a coinky-dink. Then Dr. Scythe knows my father, does she? She was a young medical assistant at the time, so I doubt their paths crossed regularly. But I've no doubt they knew each other, superficially. After all, Dr. Mikotoba was here studying his subject for some 6 years in total. 6 years? That's a long time to be studying abroad, isn't it? I lived with my grandmother in those years. So he left his newly born daughter behind and went overseas for 6 whole years. It was a rather turbulent time at home. Oh. Perhaps Father wanted a reason to get away. What do you mean? Why? Well, clearly something was going on at the time. Okay. Lord Van Zeeks. I wanted to ask... Sorry, throat's still a little scratchy. I wanted to ask you about Lord Van Zeeks, actually. I heard that his older brother was killed some years ago by a mass murderer known as the Professor, who targeted nobles and royalty. Is that right? You Japanese are as I'm sorry, start over. You Japanese are a thorough lot. You've done your research well. Yes. And you could say it was that very incident that gave rise to the Reaper. What? Why? When his brother Clint Van Zeeks was murdered. And I know. I love how you assume I already know about that when I just discovered it the other day. When his brother Clint Van Zeeks was murdered, it was just after young Barack had graduated from the University of London and became a prosecutor. When obvious criminals who managed to evade conviction in court started disappearing, rumors quickly spread throughout the capital. Londoners started to say that wherever Barack Van Zeeks went, the ghost of his dead brother wasn't far behind. Oh my word. So, Lord Van Zeeks isn't the Reaper. It's the ghost of his brother? Ever since that time, he became a very aloof figure in London's legal circles. Fascinating. Oh yes, Lord Strongheart. Go ahead. It's about Professor Harebrain's experimental machine. We'd like your permission to examine the remains, if possible. Are you well-versed in science, then? Not in the slightest. In fact, you could say I was barely aware of the subject at all until recently. Well, the special dispensation legally preventing investigation on the machine is currently being annulled. Within a few hours, Dr. Scythe's team of forensic experts will begin their own investigation. But I suppose until then, there's no harm in you looking at the wreckage, as long as you touch nothing. Thank you. Being able to look at it is better than nothing. And I'll be able to see it too. Your time is up. You'll have to excuse me now, I'm afraid. My next engagement calls. We are extremely sorry to have troubled you when you are so busy, my lord. I have important matters to attend to in preparation for the symposium, you understand? Alrighty, we get to move on. A new location has been added. Okay, let's go to the prison. We should talk to our client. What the hell do you think you're doing? What's he doing? Oh my, the whole wall of the cell is covered in mathematical equations. And he's still writing more now. Professor, sorry to interrupt. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo. And who is this young lady? My name is Susato Mikotoba. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant. It's a pleasure to meet you, Professor. Weren't you in the courtroom when she showed up, dude? And even after? Oh, if only I'd met a refined young woman like you sooner. None of this would have happened. No, that's not logical. That makes no sense at all. Oh dear, I'm sorry if my presence here has upset you. I owe you an apology too, Professor. I didn't manage to deliver what I promised you I would in court this morning. Oh no, no. The whole thing, the whole miserable affair. It all happened because I've been such a complete and utter clot. Professor Hairbrain? What have you been working on in your cell? Oh, haha, you mean that? Oh dear, how embarrassing. I was suddenly struck by an idea, you see, and I simply had to write it down. The wall was all I had to hand. Oh, is it some new hypothesis? Something to surpass super high voltage instantaneous kinesis, maybe? No, actually, this is my autobiography. Your autobiography? How I was diddled and fiddled by Albert Hairbrain. I've found I can represent my odd fortunes with only odd numbers in an ambitious set of simultaneous equations. Really? I'm going to have to pay back all the loans I took for the kinesis machine, you see? So it's going to be a new serial publication from next month. It's going to be a new serial publication from next month. Part 1, The Odd Birth and Odd Upbringing. You can't beat the man's optimism, that's for sure. I see. Well, for now, would you mind if we talked a little more about the case? Oh, yes, of course. I've been working through the numbers. I was diddled, I was fiddled by the pair of them. By Osman and by that aloof engineer Drebber. We're not going to have to sit through an explanation for all these equations, are we? Okay, let's have a little chit-chat. This morning's trial. Everything I believed in has been turned on its head. My research, Mr. Osmond, the kinesis machine, my hypothesis even. I'm sorry it's come to this. There was really no other way. No, it's not your fault. I wanted to protect my work, but in the end, there was nothing worth protecting. It was never my intention to deceive anyone. I didn't want to trick the public. No, of course you didn't. But in court this morning, I realized something. Oh? If you've done something wrong without knowing it, you've still done something wrong. Logically, it makes no difference if you were aware of it or not. I don't agree with that. Ignorance is a poor excuse. The blame still lies with me. Oh, Professor. He believed in me this morning, you know. Barak did. he believed in my hypothesis. Well, I think that was just a necessary factor in the prosecution establishing its case. No, Barack wouldn't do something like that. I'm sure he genuinely believed it. Did he? I think I understand now. Why it was that he decided to take on the prosecution in my trial, I mean. Yeah, because of me. He always does it because of me. After the terrible accident happened, nobody would believe in my hypothesis anymore. Not the police, not the prosecution service, not any lawyers even. I feel like I dealt some kind of finishing blow there. So if any other prosecutor had taken the case, if it was anyone other than Barack, I'm sure the prosecution would have declared my hypothesis a complete and utter nonsense. And in that case, you would have been declared a fraud yourself, Professor. Exactly, which would have been a fate worse than death for me. But Barack insisted that I was a proper man of science from start to finish. You think that's why he... I know him very well indeed. He's an extremely kind-hearted soul. But that extremely kind-hearted soul spent all morning trying to paint you as a murderer, didn't he? Well, admittedly, that part of the analysis appears to have some flaws in it. And what about the whole Reaper side of things? How does that fit in with the kind-hearted soul idea? Mr. Osmond, do you think he set out to trick me from the very start? I'm sorry to say that does seem likely, yes. When I first met him, he introduced himself as a wealthy financier. He took over the paper I'd written and said my work would benefit all humanity and must be pursued. He was so enthused, he was so emphatic. But in reality, he was the mastermind of some vast criminal network, it seems. I still can't believe it. As the machine was essentially a set decoration for some stage magic, it probably didn't require a large amount of investment, actually. But the scale of it wasn't just some small trick. She just put the book away into nowhere. It was a very elaborate feat of deception. All young scientists are full of hope about their burgeoning ideas, full of zeal. But none of us have any money. We want to do research, but we can't afford it. Many of us take on barely legal part-time work to try to earn just a few measly pennies to carry on. To go through all of that only to be taken for a complete fool, it's too rotten to believe. It is, I agree. And that's why we have to find those responsible and bring them to justice. Mr. Osmond is no more, of course, which leaves only the engineer. Dr. Enoch Drebber, actually. Okay, Drebber the engineer. Is he an engineer or a magician or a swindler? It was about a year ago when Mr. Osmond first brought Drebber to meet me at my laboratory. Since then, I've met him many times to discuss details about the kinesis machine. But at no point did you have any inkling that he was just an illusionist. Oh, he definitely wasn't just an illusionist. What do you mean? He was a wealth of deep scientific knowledge. There's no question that the man's a genuine scientist. It's instantly apparent in conversation. I see. But the wretched man deceived you, Professor. It's unforgivable. We must do everything we can to find him and bring him to justice. Are there no clues you can give us as to his whereabouts? I'm sorry, we only ever discussed the kinesis machine and nothing else. Although, just once, I did visit his workshop.
What workshop?
Drebber's enormous fabrication laboratory, where he constructed my great machine.
What? Why didn't you mention this before?
Enoch Drebber's workshop. There's every chance we might find the man there.
So you've been to Drebber's place of work then?
Yes, just once, you understand. It was an enormous place, plenty of room to construct the kinesis machine, you see.
Where can we find it? We have to go there at once. There's a good chance that we'll find Drebber there.
Yes, definitely, I'm sure. As in, I'm sure you're not going to want to hear this. But I have absolutely no idea where the workshop is at all. I'm so sorry.
I was more than half expecting that.
I see, I was blindfolded in the carriage the entire way there.
He blindfolded you. He wasn't taking any chances then.
The place was incredible, the pinnacle of modern engineering. Even the oil he used was the very best, a special French machine oil that's impossible to obtain in Britain. Ah, the indescribable scent of that imported oil. Perfumers across the world should forget their secret formulae and use that instead.
What do you think, Mr. Sato? Eau de machine for your next birthday?
I've never used any
Kind of perfume, Mr. Naruhodo, and I'm not sure I'd like to start with that.
I don't suppose you know even part of the workshop's address, Professor. You don't have a business card from Mr. Drebber, for example.
The man was clearly very cautious, Mr. Sato.
Aha! Yes, I do. He gave me his business card once. It's right here, look.
What?
Let me see that.
Throw etiquette to the wind, why don't you?
Enoch Drebber, engineer.
I'm afraid that's all it says. There's no address. What kind of business card is that? No? Oh well, I can't say I'm surprised. Still, this could be useful. Drebber's card has been entered into the court record. Well, I know what I'm going to do next. I'm going to examine. Aha, I thought so. It's in 3D, which means... Flip it over. What do we have here? This dark smudge here.
I think perhaps it's machine oil.
No shit. Ah, yes, possibly. Professor Harebrained mentioned something about the oil Drebber uses, didn't he? He said it was specifically imported, very high quality oil that's impossible to obtain in Britain.
Yes, that's right. But more importantly, that it's more fragrant than the finest perfume. So excuse me for a moment. Oh, it doesn't appear to have any scent at all.
Don't worry, I expect that's just because there's such a tiny amount of it here. Details of Drebber's card has been updated in the court record. Okay, I think I'm also going to present, but I have to go to the actual present for some reason. Because we can't just combine menus for some reason. Professor Harebrained, what do you make of this?
Oh yes, that's just what we need to prove my hypothesis, isn't it?
No, it's nothing to do with your hypothesis, actually. A couple things I want to show him. I think I'm gonna get a lot of non-answers from him, though.
Then take it away. I don't want to be bothered with anything that doesn't assist my science. Alright, keep your abundant hair on. Okay, let's try the screwdriver. Professor, do you recognize this? Oh, it's Andrew, my faithful friend. How have you been? Are you alright? Nobody mistreated you, have they? Don't worry, he's being very well looked after. I always rub him with machine oil until he's gleaming. Right. And then when I come to tighten a screw with him, he slips from my hand and I can't do it. That's an age-old problem faced by driver files the world over, isn't it? I really wouldn't know, I'm afraid. Driver files. Let's see. Not gonna have anything to say about the autopsy. Maybe it's a photograph. Excuse me, look at this photograph. Ugh, how could this have happened? You must feel awful, as well as a man losing his life. The Crystal Tower was greatly damaged, too. I know what happened. It must have been that. That? The day before the demonstration, I had my unusual meal of frankfurters at the hotel restaurant. When I paid the bill, they gave me 3 shillings too much in change. But instead of saying anything, didn't we have this conversation? I slipped the coins into my pocket. They're still there now. It's divine retribution for my wrongdoing. That's what this is. For a scientist, he has some very logical anecdotes. Long and illogical. Okay. Okay, take a look at this. Oh. Gonna get a stock answer from him. Okay, okay, I think that's pretty much it, unless there's... Nope. Okay. Let's get a move on. Let's see. Should we go to... Let's go to the experimentation stage. Saving the laboratory. 23rd of October. The Great Exhibition. Grounds. Foot of the Crystal Tower. I had no idea there were so many people in the world. I know what you mean. It's really packed here today. Feels as though it's taken us 2 hours just to make our way through the crowds to this point. Has it? I shut my brain down so I didn't really notice, to be honest. Gosh, I do wish I had your absence of mind sometimes, Mr. Naruhodo. There you are. I had a feeling you lot would show your mugs before long. That must be Gina. No, it's there you are. You'd show your mugs here. I knew you'd be here. Anyway. Oh, Inspector Gregson, I see you're hard at work as usual. Warm greetings to you. I do hope you've been keeping well since last we met. What's with all the ceremony? We just saw each other in court this morning. Not you, Sunshine, the gentlewoman so loyally at your side. Oh. Why, thank you, Inspector. How good of you to notice. He might be a bit rough around the edges, but he's still a proper English gentleman at heart, I suppose. As you probably guess, we're hoping to investigate the scene some more. Right, well, that's the young trainee's domain. Oi, get over here, Gina. She's got a puppy. She seemed to be busy playing with a puppy, probably giving it a traditional East End training. Gina? She's a police officer now? Amazing, isn't it? She's a good kid, actually. Heart's in the right place, anyway. She's got that detection bug, if you ask me. Yep, I think she'll follow in my footsteps nicely. What do you mean? I'm being transferred. It's time for me to say toodaloo to London. Oh no, really? That's a bit sudden, isn't it? I had no idea. Where are you going to be posted then? We'll come to see how you're getting along.
Haha, not likely, but you're welcome to try. If you don't mind a trip to France, that is.
To France?
Yeah, I hear there's a gentleman burglar there that... Oh, never mind. I'll be working at the Paris police, prefecture. Should be right up my alley.
But France, it's an entirely different country. I don't understand. Why would you be sent there?
That's the way the adult world works, Sunshine. Now don't go poking your nose in where it's not wanted. I'm intended to take the kid with me when I go.
What? You're taking Gina to Paris?
Well, I can't leave her here in London. Who knows what would become of her?
I suppose he's worried she'd slip back into slipping her hands into people's pockets and purses. I don't think he's worried about her pickpocketing, Mr. Naruhodo. I think he's worried about the Reaper. Oh, of course. So that's playing on Inspector Gregson's mind too, is it?
Anyway, I haven't mentioned any of this to Gina, so don't go blabbing, you hear me?
No, of course not. You know what? It's her decision. She could tell you no.
I've got to keep that diving diva safe and sound until all this is over, at least.
Bling. Oi, did you just call me a bloomin' diving diva again?
So you heard that, did ya? Right, well, any questions about the scene, you can put them to my capable detective diva here.
All right, you heard the boss. Inspector Lestrange is in charge here now. I suppose I'd better keep my word and not mention anything about Paris. So, Gina, you've got a new dog, have you? Look at him wagging his tail. Isn't he great? Toby's his name. Oh, how delightful. He's absolutely adorable. Yes, the dog does seem lovely. But it's the not-so-lovely Inspector Gregson that's playing on my mind, to be honest. Let's have a chit-chat. That was interesting. Gina, we were actually hoping that we could investigate the scene again. Yeah, all right. If it's around here, you can do what you like. Oh, that's all right, is it? That's all right, is it? I'm gonna be playing with me new friend here. Yes, Toby. Woof. The machine that exploded must be at the top of those stairs, I presume. I haven't actually seen it yet, so if you don't mind. Sorry, you can't go up there, Suze. Oh. It's like I told Oda yesterday. Even I ain't allowed near that wreck. What's it called again? The reason why we ain't supposed to touch it? The Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. Is that what you were thinking of? That's the one? That's why only them lot are allowed to investigate it. What are they called again? The forensic something? The Forensic Investigation Team? Is that what you were thinking of? That's the one, yeah. But isn't it the case that the special dispensation has been lifted? I think so. I don't really get it, to be truthful with ya. You're still supposed to get permission from some bigwiggers or other, as far as I know. What was his name again? Lord Strange something? I'm not sure that's quite right, Gina. I think you mean Lord Strongheart, perhaps. That's the one, yeah. Apparently he's always watching the time or something. Actually, we've just recently been to see Lord Strongheart. That must have been why the that option flipped, because if we had come here first, we would have gotten a different conversation. So it canceled something out that we never got to see. We've just recently been to see Lord Strongheart. Eh, you what? You've met him? Last time the boss was called to go and see him, he waited for some 3 hours at the Cove's office and came back sniveling. Tragic. Well, Lord Strongheart has given us permission to examine the scene as long as we touch nothing. Oh yeah. Honestly. Alright then, go ahead. But if it turns out you're lying, it'll be the boss who gets it. He'll never eat another chip again in his life. So you're still saying all this above board, are ya? This is above board. I'm sure everything will be fine. That really would be tragic. Alright then, them's the stairs. Off you go. Oh, thank you, Gina. But before we do that, let's talk some more. We got other topics to get to. It was great, weren't it? I had a right laugh. It was a new one on me, that. You know, being in court and not spending the whole time worrying I'm about to be found out. What? Oh, I think I put the wrong emphasis. Yeah, it was great. I had a good laugh. It was a new one on me, that. You know, being in court and not spending the whole time worrying about that I was being found out, I guess. In other words, that she wasn't actually in trouble this time, what she's saying. You did keep an awful lot of secrets in all your previous court appearances, didn't you? Yeah, and Odo's made things odd for me every single time and all. Just doing my job, Gina. But watching someone else get it in the neck is a lot of fun, actually. It was amazing when you showed that dodgy professor's dodgy experiment was a total fix. The dodgy professor, as you put it, Gina, is Mr. Naruhodo's client. Yes, I'm starting to wish he wasn't, though. It's the boss I feel sorry for, sent off to do the impossible. What do you mean? He's supposed to arrest that other cove, ain't he? And in time for tomorrow and all. You know, the dodgy engineer. What's his name again? Mr. Drebber, you mean? Enoch Drebber. That's the one, yeah. So the police are looking for the mysterious man with the black monocle. I guess they would be. It's putting too much on the boss, if you ask me. He says it's giving him a gut ache. Probably is fish and chips. Oh dear, but I do wonder if that isn't actually from all the fried food. The engineer's whereabouts. So Scotland Yard are trying to track down Mr. Enoch Drebber. I wonder if they've had any luck. He's really funny looking. Got two eyes what don't match. Stole a glimpse of a picture of him earlier. I mean, I didn't actually pinch it or nothing. The old devil's got it. Sorry, who? You know, the Scowling Reaper, what's always glugging down glasses of that blood-red plunk. Ah, Lord Van Zeeks. He's always had it in for me, that cove. Don't know what he's always scowling about, mind. Probably would have been a pretty good boss as it goes. She'd rather be the Reaper's apprentice than a detective's trainee. The way I see it, if the choice is between a chip-guzzling detective and a chalice-guggling demigod, you're equally bad off with both. I suppose you're right. I hadn't thought of it like that. Glad we put that one to bed. Anyway, the point is, everyone at the yard's dead set on finding the fishy engineer. But there don't seem to be no clues to go on, so they're stuck. There's nothing that can't lead us... There's nothing that can't lead us to Drebber at all? Toby the dog. Where did you find that little mutt then, Gina? Oh, I don't be so flamin' rude, Odo. Slight overreaction, don't you think? He ain't no mutt, alright. Toby's... How did they put it? Oi, right. He's a bona fide detective, he is. Sorry? I've given him a proper little title and everything. It's Chief Inspector Toby to you. More senior than Inspector Gregson, is he? Oh, so he's a police dog, is he? The police recruit dogs now? I've heard that they're already being used officially in Germany as part of their city policing. They're used for chasing criminals and such like. They have a wonderful sense of smell, after all. I have a fairly good sense of smell myself, as it happens. I can tell undergarments that have been freshly laundered from undergarments that haven't. Ew. Ha, that's nothing compared to this little fella, Odo. Oh, really? According to what the boss said, once Toby here's got a good whiff of your drawers, he could chase that scent to the other side of the world. What? To the other side of the world? You mean he could swim? Mr. Naruhodo, I think you may have missed the point by a rather wide margin. I just can't believe that this little dog has such an incredible skill. Dogs can swim, dork. I'm telling you, Odo, there's gonna be more and more dogs doing their bit for the police in the future. Yes, I agree. Right, one of these days, they'll be barking orders at us lot, not the other way around. Oh dear, sorry Gina. I don't think I agree with your vision quite that much. Well, anyway, whatever you think about that, Toby here is Britain's first police dog. I found him down the east end the other day. Someone had just chucked him out in the street. There you go. I knew she'd lifted him from somewhere. Oh, Gina, you're such a kind-hearted soul, aren't you? To children and to animals. Alright, I think we're gonna look at, is there anything we should present to her? Oh, again, can't do it from that menu. I have to go over here to this identical menu, and then we have the option to present. So let's, I suppose I can ask her about this. About this, Gina. Yeah, I'm still learning me letters at the moment. I only know A to E, so if it ain't too much bleeding trouble. Actually, Gina, it's the back of the card that's important. Eh, how come? There's just a dirty old smudge on the back, that's all. It turns out that this is a very high quality French machine oil. Well, we hadn't really established that, we just assumed. It has a very particular scent, apparently. You don't say. That. Let's have a whiff, then. Oh, the dog. You sure? I don't smell nothing. No, we didn't mean that you should smell it. Oh, right. You mean Toby. Woof. His sense of smell is so good he can track people over the oceans, he can. Can't he? Professor Hairbrain informed us that this oil is unique to Mr. Drebber's workshop. Ah, yes.
So Toby is based on the dog that's from, I believe it was in The Sign of the Four. Oh, or it might have been, it was one of the first two books. I don't remember which one, but they got a dog to track something down. And I believe it was a type of machine oil in the story. I think he's picked up the scent. So you mean if he follows the scent of this oil, Toby could lead us to the Dodgy Cove's workshop? That's right. That's exactly what we're hoping. Alright then, we'll give it a go. I'll just borrow that. Wait, when did you once a pickpocket? If I can lead everyone to that Drebber's workshop, I'll be the boss's boss before next week. Oh yes, Gina. I'm sure you'll be promoted. Poor Gregson. She'll be taking him to France. Right then, Odo, leave it to me. Sorry? We're going to get going after that dodgy engineer cove right this minute. Oh, but hang on. Somebody's supposed to be on guard duty here all the time. I'm afraid we can't help. We need to get on with our investigation as well, Gina. Oh, right. Oh, well, never mind. Ain't gonna be me what's getting it in the neck. It'll be the boss. Poor Gregson again. Ready, Toby? Got that oil scent, have you? Go on then, boy. See you later. Alright. Well, now that we got that taken care of, I do hope the scent of that oil leads them to that swindler's workshop. Yes, I sure hope so too. Ideally, before the dog swims across the channel to France. Okay, we're gonna go up the stairs. These stairs lead up to the experimentation stage. Let's go and see what we can find out. 23rd of October, the Great Exhibition Grounds Experimentation Stage. Oh my. Oh my, so this is the machine. Yes, welcome to the machine. I was going to sing that, but then I remembered I can't sing. Pink Floyd reference. That was used to deceive people into thinking instantaneous kinesis had taken place. Yes, that's right, or rather, it was the machine. It's a little worse for wear at the moment. What extraordinary lengths Professor Harebrain went in order to obtain the research grant. No, the professor was tricked as well. He didn't know anything about it. Yes, of course, it is amazing though, isn't it? The scale of the whole affair is so very British. You're right about that. You'd never see such a grand deception in Japan, that's for sure. Oh. Well, look, is that Lord Van Zeeks? So, I think we're more or less done here, aren't we? Shall we, Mr. Sato? Already? He is the Reaper, remember? We'd do well to keep our distance, I think. But we have permission to be here from the top. We're perfectly well allowed to investigate this machine as long as we don't touch anything. From the top? Do you mean Lord Strongheart? Exactly. So we can stay here and stare at this wreckage for as long as we like. She could have been at the center of the explosion here, and it wouldn't have bent her steel will. Alright. First of all, I want to look at this again with Susato. I hear that a ride on the Ferris wheel is a favorite romantic outing among young London couples. I think the romance would be slightly spoiled by the abject terror, personally, but then I'm not a Londoner.
Are you a little scared of heights, Mr. Naruhodo?
It's not that I'm scared, not at all. Just that staying on the ground seems so much safer.
Well, perhaps I shall have to ask Iris and Mr. Sholmes to accompany me on it in that case.
When you put it like that, part of me does want to give it a try.
Oh dear. It is complicated for you, isn't it?
Okay, I had mentioned last time that the Ferris wheel was part of an event that happened in America. Actually, it wasn't a centennial celebration at all. It was actually the Columbian Exposition. It was celebrating the 400th anniversary of Columbus making his way to America, or accidentally finding America anyway. And it was 1893. The Ferris wheel was there. Whole bunch of celebrities of the time. I think Annie Oakley was there. Thomas Edison. Bunch of people. Tesla. Yeah, so there's a very good book written about it, The Devil in the White City. It's two different stories in one. It kind of crosses back and forth between the exhibition rather and the H.H. Holmes murders, and really, really interesting stuff about the White City. The last note about that: the Field Museum that's in Chicago is actually part of that exhibition, and it still stands today. Anyway, let's talk to Lord Van Zieks. Ugh. Least approachable man in the world winner, 10 years in a row.
Be strong, Mr. Naruhodo. Your country and your assistant stand firm behind you.
Lord Van Zieks. What? Well, we were just leaving. Beautiful weather we're having, isn't it? I thought I was making it quite clear that I didn't want to be disturbed. Apparently, you Nipponese are unequipped to read the signs. Oh, I read them. So, what are you doing here? Entry to this area is prohibited.
Well, the thing is, Lord Chief Justice Strongheart granted us permission to investigate, on the condition that we didn't disturb anything.
And yet you've managed to disturb me.
Ah, he's got a point there.
Never mind. State your business, then.
Come to think of it, I've forgotten.
There are quite a few things I'd like to ask Lord Van Zieks about.
Not the least of which is that awful case, even though it's nothing to do with this. Ask away, Mr. Naruhodo. You won't know unless you try.
Okay, your brother Clint... Ooh. Off to a roaring start. So, Clint. Nice guy, huh? Was the name of your older brother, I understand, Lord Van Zieks. You Nipponese, you always have to be you always have to be on your guard whenever you're around. I'm sorry, I always have to be on my guard. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. I always have to be on my guard whenever you're around. So you've been investigating me, have you?
Oh, no, it's not that. It's not like that.
Well, alright, it is a bit like that. My older brother was also a prosecutor. He was the pride of the Van Zieks family. But tragically, a vicious killer took him from us.
The professor, you mean?
This is very much like Edgeworth and his father.
Is something funny?
That's the extent of what you've discovered, is it? I shouldn't be surprised.
Sorry, there's more to it then?
Lackluster work is very much your trademark, isn't it?
You're too kind. Are you going to
tar all Nipponese with the same brush next? So tell me, what's your interest in that historical incident?
As it happens, Lord Van Zeeks, there's a rather curious case that's come to our attention. Are you aware of the Madame Tuspel's Museum of Waxwork by any chance?
I am, naturally. I believe that since last month, I feature in one of the displays there for public scorn. Of course, the infamous Reaper of the Bailey would have to be exhibited, wouldn't he?
Well, a particular waxwork has been stolen from the place and held for ransom.
A particular waxwork? Which... Wait, you mean...
Yes, it's the professor. Mr. Sholmes is investigating the case as we speak.
I was unaware of that.
He's turned as white as a sheet.
Alright, let's talk about Enoch Drebber.
Are the police trying to locate the engineer, Mr. Drebber, already?
Surely that goes without saying.
Don't call me Shirley, Van Zeeks. We're very keen to see him found as well. The trouble is, we don't have much to go on aside from the description of the man we heard in court earlier. Which, according to Professor Harebrain, was of a tall, thin gentleman who has straight white hair and wears a black monocle.
So I was just wondering,
oh, sorry, this is Ryunosuke. So I was just wondering, I realize it's probably not possible, but, we'd very much appreciate any more clues you can give us.
Wow, Susato really knows how to take the bull by the horns. Fine, why not? I have a photograph of the man here for an investigation 10 years ago.
Oh, not what I was expecting.
Though it appears he already had the black monocle at the time.
Wait a minute.
What?
Oh, no, nothing. I was just surprised that you shared that with us.
We all need the man's testimony in court tomorrow. Which means we have to do something we possibly can to track him down in the short time available.
So, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I think I missed something here. Oh, they are talking. Oh, I thought they were talking about the professor. I was just like, wait a minute. The professor is also... Okay, I got lost in the conversation. But what if the professor is also that guy, Mr. Drebber? Anyway. So why wouldn't I show you...
So why wouldn't I show you the photograph?
What is it about Lord Van Zeeks? Sometimes I just can't work him out at all. The photograph of Drebber has been entered into the court record.
Alright.
Oh, it's you.
The file I requested for tomorrow's trial. Thank you.
Are you all right? Who is this man, Mr. Naruhodo? Lord Van Zeek's apprentice, apparently. So I'm not the only one. Susato can see it too. Lord Van Zeeks, may we speak with your apprentice for a moment?
With him? Why? What? Is he gonna speak? No! Kazuma! Oh my god. Kazuma. I don't believe it. Your posture, your presence. It can only be. It's you, isn't it, Kazuma? I felt something strange the very first time I encountered this cloaked figure, as if I knew him somehow. Can it really be you, Kazuma? Well, wait! Too late. What's going on here? Your apprentice. What is your interest in my apprentice exactly? You act as if you know the man or something. Well, since when has he been in your care? I don't recall you having an apprentice before I left Britain 6 months ago. Lord Strongheart introduced him to me about 3 months ago now, with instructions to mentor him as a prosecutor. But he didn't tell you why, did he? The man appears to be suffering from amnesia. He's forgotten every last detail about himself.
He has amnesia?
Tomorrow he will appear in court at my side.
What?
He's to serve as my judicial assistant on Lord Strongheart's orders.
He'll be in court with us.
Now then, unless I'm much mistaken, I believe this conversation has run its course.
Oh, yes, thank you. I definitely saw a reaction there. When Susato called out like that, it really seemed to hit a nerve. When she called out Kazma's name. Okay, is there anything to present? Sure, let's try. What's that? It's what you gave us. Not gonna... Okay, I don't think there's really much of anything else. Let's show him the screwdriver. What's that? Okay, I'm just kind of... Okay, I don't think there's anything else. Let's examine the grounds really quick, see if there's anything new that has shown up. I don't see anything. And then what I think we'll do... Oh, let's look at the cage. This wasn't here. Yeah, it wasn't. Really? But if I'm not mistaken, it's the cage in which the victim was standing before he was apparently beamed through the air. That's right, the bird cage, according to what Professor Harebrain said in court. It's made of wood. Or more precisely, Japanese cypress, I think. And despite having been in an explosion and then falling from a great height, it's relatively unharmed. What wonderful durable construction, wouldn't you say, Mr. Naruhodo? I understood that the forensic investigation team had taken it away yesterday to examine it. I suppose they must have brought it back here when they finished their work. Or it's the other cage, perhaps. But sadly not with the body inside. No, that's right. They wouldn't bring it back. They wouldn't bring the body back here, silly. I know we were given strict orders not to touch anything, but still. This is too important a piece of evidence to overlook. We might need it for the trial. The birdcage from the machine has been entered into the court record. Should we show it to Van Zeeks? Sure, why not? And then I'm gonna get out of here. I think that's this is a good note to leave on. What's that? Okay, not gonna tell us anything. Well, let's actually look at it. See if there's anything special. Let's see. Ah, here we go. Ah, look here, Mr. Sato. Oh yes, the wood's cracked and broken a little. I suppose because it fell from such a height.
Yes, from a height at which the balloon was flying down into the crystal tower below. A fall of about 30 feet, or 9 meters, leaving the man inside tragically dead. Details of the wooden birdcage have been updated in the court record. Okay, is there anything else? Anything else at all? Nope, doesn't look like a thing. The innards, certainly not. Okay. Alright, let's get out of here. Thank you for watching. Wow, what a note to leave on, huh? So I'll see you next time, and we'll continue more of this crazy case.